All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Friday, Free-for-All Friday, October the 24th, 2008 edition of the broadcast, coming to you live for the next 4 hours here, broadcasting from sunny and beautiful Dallas, Texas here today for you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today, lots to get into. We thank you so much for being here with us, all you guys, every single day as we decode the New World Order, past, present, and future. That's what we do here. Nothing is taboo. Nothing is out of the realm and scope of conversation and discussion. And we will get into all of it today. And we'd love to hear from you at 360-350-1486. And I mean that today. Let's get some phone calls in here, man. If you guys want to talk, whatever you want to talk about, I don't care what it is. Let's do it. Anything you think is a hot button issue, anything you want to get into, let's go. If you want to call in and rant, I don't care. Call in and rant. I don't care. Let's get some phone calls in here today. International calls, welcome as well at 1-866-639-9535. So the regular number is 360-350-1486. So we'll get you up and on the air with us today and coming up in the third hour of the broadcast today, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, we are scheduled to have our great friend to the broadcast, Freeman, from the Freeman Perspective, FreemanTV.com. He's starting a brand new show here on Oracle Broadcasting tomorrow night from 8 to 10 Central Standard Time. It's going to be called The Free Zone with your host, Freeman. So tomorrow night from 8 to 10 Central Standard Time, you'll have Freeman. So that's going to be great. You'll have Freeman from 8 to 10. Then you'll have me come on live with a Saturday night edition of the Global Reality from 10 to midnight. So, man, I'm looking forward to that. That is going to be a great Saturday live. The Saturday lineup to me is already great, but I love all the shows we have on Saturdays. But you throw Freeman into that mix, and you get me and Freeman in there back to back, and I think that's pretty unbeatable for a Saturday night lineup as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's another network out there that can say they have a lineup on Saturday nights as good as what we have here at Oracle. I mean, really, that's not bragging. That's just the truth. But I'm looking forward to that. So we'll have Freeman today with us, 1 Central. He's going to preview the show for you. He's going to tell you what's been going on in his life. Everybody's been asking over the past several weeks. I think everybody was sort of thinking that we were BSing you on Freeman coming on board Oracle because, he's a busy guy, man. I mean, I'm just lucky to have him. I don't care how long it takes. I'm just grateful that he wanted to come on, and he's excited about the show. He's excited about taking your phone calls. That's what's going to be great to me. I mean, my goodness. I mean, this would be exciting for me if this was on any network. But the fact that it's on our network, it makes it even more exciting. So, just the fact that you're going to have an opportunity to be able to call in and talk with Freeman. I mean, imagine that. Imagine what you're going to be able to, ask this guy and discuss and pick his brain about. I mean, that to me just is worth the price of admission for the show. I mean, that really is it. But so yeah, tomorrow night, 8 to 10 Central Standard Time, The Free Zone with your host Freeman will premiere. And again, we'll have Freeman with us today on the Global Reality at 1 Central. And I tell you what, and I'll mention this again later on the show once Freeman comes on. But it's amazing. It's an amazing thing for me because two of the first people I ever met, back when I was trying to get going at this and get established and figure out something to do. I'd been in my own little compartmentalized area of Dallas, Texas here, and I was sort of trying to get the word out and just, nothing was really happening. And I'd had an interest in, I was trying to wanted to start making a film, wanted to start maybe doing a radio show. And the first two people that I ever met was Jack Blood and Freeman. And they drove up to Dallas. It was just hilarious. I remember the story. I remember the day it was Alex Jones was having his premiere for his film Terror Storm here in Dallas, and I had wanted to meet up with Freeman to discuss, having him in an esoteric documentary I was planning on making at that time, which I subsequently never made, but it sort of ended up turning into another film. But that's neither here nor there. But I remember Jack Blood putting a call out on his radio show for somebody to give him and Freeman a ride to Dallas. But I had that was the first time I checked Jack Blood, and I sort of asked him, what I should do, and he sort of gave me some tips and just said, just do whatever, just get out there and do something, and if you're doing the right thing, you'll get noticed. And you know what? I mean, I've done that, and that is indeed happened for me. And same thing with Freeman. When I first met Freeman, I mean, I was starstruck with the guy. I was just a huge fan of Freeman. I was completely starstruck the first time I met him, but he was, he was totally, I figured he wanted to be hanging out with other people. He wanted to hang out with me all night. It was just amazing. And then, a lot of people don't know this, but the first show I ever did, first time I was ever on radio, this is before I even had a radio show, folks, okay? I had never been on radio before. I had never even attempted to do it. I was sitting in for a host who's no longer on the air. The very first show I ever did, the first time I ever turned the microphone on, Freeman was my guest. and here we are today on the 24th day here of October 2008, and here I am with my own show and Freeman coming on the network, and it's just it's an amazing thing, and just proves to you that as long as you keep hammering it out, and as long as you keep trying, and you're and you're doing things for the right reasons, man, you will get where you want to be, And I'm grateful every day for where I'm at, and I'm not jack diddly squat. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm small beans, but you know what? I don't care. I enjoy where I'm at and how far I've come and what I've accomplished, and I keep setting my goals high and pushing harder and harder and working harder and harder. I mean, that's why I work my butt off for this, man. And I'm just so, thankful for Oracle Broadcasting and thankful for the network and all the guys we have here, because what this network has enabled me to do, and I was talking to Lee Rogers about this last night in the chat room, it's just amazing now. You kind of have to take a step back. We've been going here about a couple of months now, about 2 months now. And one of the things I've noticed, and I really didn't notice it at first, because, when you're first launching a network and whatnot, it's kind of hectic and you're just trying to do. But one thing I've noticed now that we've sort of settled into the network and everything is sort of, going the way it's supposed to go now, I think I've noticed is more than on any other network, I've just been able to focus as much as possible on making this the best show that I can. I mean, I try to make it the best show I can for myself, and hopefully that becomes something that's enjoyable for other people as well. But one of the things I've noticed is that it's just become so much easier to try to constantly just focus on doing the best show. I mean, there's not any kind of extraneous. You're not worried about someone going to come along and go, hey, pack it up, Jack. You said something we didn't like, or that doesn't fit our agenda here. We're not on board with those ideologies. And I just appreciate everybody so much because, I mean, you're able to focus on the task at hand, and that's figuring out the best way possible to get out the information and hopefully inspire somebody else to want to get involved. That's the whole thing. But nonetheless, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and I'm just sort of just ranting and talking here right now. But that's okay. We'll get into news and we'll get on to that. But I think it's important just to talk and have a conversation about this stuff. But no doubt, man. But that's the main thing is that, everybody's just doing something to make it happen. And you guys have done a lot of stuff as far as getting out the word and whatnot. It's kind of a slow news day, but I still got a ton of news nonetheless. I've got, let's see how many stories I got here. I've probably got about 15 stories, and that's considered slow nowadays, isn't it? It's as crazy as the news is. But, I mean, it's just insane as far as all this stuff. Wow, 15 stories, man, and it's a slow news day. 15 stories used to be an absolute insane news day. I mean, literally, that's where we are now. I mean, I remember, dude, when 15 news stories was like, oh, my God, 15 news stories. How are we going to cram all this in? Now it's like, oh, man, what am I going to do? I got 15 news stories a day. As opposed to 60 I usually have every other day. I mean, my God. It's just getting insane more and more and more. But we're coming up on a break here in a couple of minutes, so I'm not going to get too far into anything. But, I've been talking about one of the constant things I've been talking about since I've been on air, in the year I've been on air, because that was what was going on then, and it continues to go on now at an exponential rate, is consolidation. And if the word of the year for 2007 was consolidation, the dual word for the year 2008 is mass consolidation. That's what we've seen. I've talked about that. This is what you're going to see. This is the slide towards incremental globalism that you're going to see. You're going to see, you've already seen the banks consolidate. You're going to see multinational corporations consolidate, military industrial complex corporations consolidate. The airline industry is going to consolidate. The automobile industry is going to consolidate. Well, now, here from Reuters today, more consolidation seen in concert ticketing. Ticketmaster Incorporated's purchase of a big stake in a powerful artist management company on Thursday signals more industry consolidation as it vies with Live Nation Incorporated for dominance in live entertainment. Buying control of Frontline Management Incorporated, which manages stars like Christina Aguilera and the Eagles, and installing its head, music veteran Irving Azoff, as chief executive of the combined company, positions Ticketmaster to compete with rival Live Nation, both in ticket sales and personal management of top music artists. So, everything is consolidation. Everything is consolidating down to under one umbrella. And that's how it will be. Everything you get, there will be no more free market. No one will have a chance to make any money. Everything you will get will come from the worldwide global superstate. More on the other side. Your phone call, 360-350-1486. Free for all Friday edition of the Global Reality. I'm Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Let's go to the phone lines right now. Global Reality, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello. I'd like to ask you if you've heard anything about Obama being able to hypnotize the crowds, and it's going around the net now. And if you're familiar with any of these techniques, and if you think it's possible for someone to do it, and if you think he's doing it.
Well, I haven't. I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard whether or not he is. I haven't heard that. It's certainly possible. I mean, here's the thing. I remember there was a quote, and I wish I could find the exact quote again. There was a quote a couple of months ago where he said, and I'm paraphrasing here. Barack Obama said, "I am what represents the returning to traditional American values." Now, I am, if you look that up, you look up that kind of statement, whenever someone says like, I am, and especially in that sort of where, he's pontificating and sort of, declaring himself, I am what represents the return to American traditional values. That's generally when they say that, that's a very Masonic term. And I mean, if you go back and read like Transformation of America by Kathy O'Brien, who was an MK Ultra mind control slave, and you go back and read some of this stuff. I mean, she talks about like Bush Sr. being able to do all these, Masonic hand signals to hypnotize people and control people, and apparently, allegedly, they had Bill Clinton under this mind control and all this stuff. As far as that, I mean, I don't know if we could ever prove it, but I would say, I wouldn't say that it's not a possibility. I think that there's more to this guy than any of us know, but I think it's probably more of a case that he may be under some sort of manipulation more than he's really manipulating anybody else. I don't think the guy has that much power. He's a puppet par excellence to the point where he actually thinks he's running something. I mean, if you look at the way Barack Obama presents himself, I mean, the guy really acts like, he acts like he doesn't have any idea that there isn't mechanisms of control behind him. I think they've kept him in the dark so much. He has no idea there's a hidden hand. He really thinks he has power.
Yeah, have you checked out his body language? The chin way up in the air. He's just, it's really interesting, this whole phenomenon around Obama. And we know that people can speak and manipulate people, put them in trance and stuff. Well, if you go on InfoWars, it's even showing up on there, and there's a link where you can get this report. And this person supposedly has experience in concussions and trances and this sort of thing, and he's laid out something like a 64-page, I don't know what you call it, essay or whatever you would call it, on how he believes this is what's going on, and he points out some of the techniques and shows how Obama is using those techniques, and it's really interesting. I can say from my own personal experience that I have listened to Obama, and I really don't. I'm not buying into the whole Obama phenomenon, the two-party system, and basically this whole sham election. But sitting there listening to Obama, I know that some of the things he was saying wasn't inaccurate, and they were inaccurate and deceptive. And as I'm sitting there listening to him, I'm finding myself like having a feeling that goes against my mind, because I know that I'm being conned, but I'm sitting there listening, and I was telling my mother, we sat and we watched him together, and I told her, I said, that is really, really interesting. I know he's conning me.
Stay right there, caller. Stay right there. I got to take a break, and I'll get to you on the other side. This is the Global Reality right here at Oracle Broadcasting, folks. Stay with us. All right, back here with you on the Global Reality on this Friday edition of the show, right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. We're talking to a caller, and we're talking about Obama and the use of possible use of mind control. And I think it's something that's definitely a possibility. I'm doing a few searches here, and I'm finding some various things where people are talking about this. Again, it's one of those things where, I don't really know. I mean, I guess it's a possibility. I haven't really looked into it that much. I could do some research on it and find out and let you know more. But I want to let the caller finish up with what he was saying there. You were talking about, before the break, you were talking about how, you're talking with your mother and whatnot, and just, it appears that, you can feel this effect on you. That's the same way the TV has the effect on me. I don't watch TV now, but whenever I do watch TV and I sit in front of it, I mean, I can literally feel it having the sort of narcotic effect on me that it has on people.
Yes, and you can even feel withdrawal when you turn it off. But this guy is so smooth that I sat there. I'm watching to see what lines he's going to run next. If he's going to, because I really don't believe in that much, because I've seen a lot of inconsistencies, and he lets out little pieces of his true intentions at a time. He doesn't come right out and lay out his whole agenda, and so that makes me mistrust him. Well, I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and he's talking, and I'm getting pulled in to this feeling of like saying, yeah, Obama's the man, and my mind, it's sort of like my subconscious mind is doing that to me, but my mind is steadily telling me, hey, don't trust this guy. Don't do it. Don't get sucked in. And then after it was all over, I started coming back to my senses, but it was almost like I had to deprogram myself. I had to go back over the concrete facts that I'd already found through researching him. I had to go back through that to pull myself out of this trance. And I told my mother, I said, you know what? I said, that guy is the good. He's good. He is the best that I've ever seen. When you know you're getting conned, you're standing there, the guy is conning you, you know he's conning you, and you go right along with it. And well, I saw a guy on the internet. He was doing street hypnotism, and he would walk up to people, and he would start talking to them, and in just about a minute or two, he would say, do you mind if I have your wallet? He'd start off asking them for directions, and then he'd say, let me have your wallet and your watch, and they'd give it to him, and he starts walking away, and the person might get 20, 30 paces, and they realize, hey, I just gave this guy my wallet. And so I believe, from what I've seen, I've seen con artists, I've seen the con game. I'm not a con artist, and I never have been one, but it just happened to be my environment. I saw it, and I've been among speakers that were very persuasive in going to churches and things like that, and I'd watch them operate and got around them, and just sort of I've taken a couple classes. I'm not a real knowledgeable person or highly educated or anything like that, but I have a little life experience, and I have a working brain, and so a critical thinking process, like you were saying earlier. Question everything, and so when I look into things, I say, well, you know what? What if that was the scenario and that was happening? Now you connect the dots and you say, okay, you have the gear up of the military. You have them sending troops from Iraq, putting them on the streets. You have them landing up in Saranac Lake. You have military leaders from other countries landing up. What if they're setting up base of operations up in Saranac Lake for Canada and upstate New York and that area. And what if transportation and Homeland Security are hooking up, because now they're saying that people are gonna have to get permission from Homeland Security, and they're going to get rid of paper tickets, and all of that. Well, and then it comes out and they say, okay, watch out. As soon as he gets elected, we've got the economy going in the direction it's going, and here's a guy, everybody's head over heels in love with him, and they don't know why. He hasn't, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't heard him say anything. How in the world could he have such strong support, and I haven't heard him say anything but change?
Well,
and I just...
Yeah, and what I think also that, whether or not he's using mind control techniques himself is up for debate. I've got something here, and I'll read it on the other side of the break. It's an analysis that someone has done on one of his speeches, and I'll read it on the other side of the break here in just a bit. But whether or not that's the case or not, there definitely has been a mass media mind control operation to convince people that he is what they should go for. So this is why they put McCain in there, because McCain's easy to demonize. He's easy to to really convince people not to vote for. Had they had someone like Ron Paul or somebody in there that was very strong, and someone who would be hard to debate on issues and very hard to really debunk their background or ruin them through their connections, it would have been a lot harder to get this guy into office. But that's, again, I never understood how McCain ever got in the first place. But it makes sense to me now. At the time, McCain had no support. He had no campaign. He had no money. He had nothing coming in. All of a sudden, this guy is the Republican nominee. It was like, oh, wait a second. What in the hell is going on here? How did McCain ever get the nomination? Then you start to figure out he was put in place because he was the best possible fall guy. So there's definitely been a manipulation campaign of the hearts and minds of the American people to get them, behind Barack Obama without even knowing really why that is. And that's something they've done. If you look throughout history and you research cult of personalities, going back to Alexander the Great, Stalin, there's been, tons of these cult of personality people throughout history. One of the definitions of a cult of personality is putting someone out there that is related, and they even say in the definition, someone who out there who is related to change. They even say change in the definition, someone who's related to change and revolution that can only be brought to the specific country through this individual. When you see that in their own definition, what are you supposed to think?
Well, you look at him, and this sort of touches on the issue of race, or let me say his color, because if you look at the world, if we're going into a worldwide system, if you look at the world, you've got a lot of people that look close to him, brown color skin. So he wants to give us over basically to the UN. So he wants to lead us into this whole new order of this whole new world order. So if you were going to put somebody in, why not make it a brown man, especially one that has the background he has, or I don't know. I wasn't there when he was born or anything, but being from the country and his father that and everything, he's like Middle Eastern in a sense. He's been to the schools and had that type of education. If what I'm reading is true, well then he would be a perfect person. And who knows how deep that goes or what his convictions really are, because I am not convinced, and I haven't really heard anything from him.
Great points, man. I got to let you go. We're on a break here. I'm going to come back and talk about this more on the other side. I appreciate your call. This is the Friday edition of Global Reality right here on Oracle Broadcasting. Stay with us. Global Reality right on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us today for the show. Second hour of the broadcast today. Coming up in the third hour today, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, we're going to have Freeman with us here on the broadcast. Freeman's going to be starting his new show, the Freeman Free Zone with Freeman, tomorrow night from 8 to 10 Central Standard Time right here on Oracle Broadcasting. So he's going to come up with us today at 1 o'clock Central and preview the show and give you an idea about what's been going on with him and in his life lately. So I'm excited about having Freeman up with us today on the broadcast. And I appreciate the caller in the last hour there. Great points, and I want to get into some of this, stuff about Barack Obama and whether or not, he's under mind control or he's using mind control. Well, the fact of the matter is that it really is all about the bloodline, and the main thing about it is the fact that these people are put in because of their bloodlines. They're put in because of their relationships to. Oh, there we go. I knew something was sounding weird. All my bass got rolled off of my microphone. I was like, why is this sounding so flat? There we go. All right. That's much better. But, that's the main thing is you have to understand that these people are chosen because of their bloodlines. Barack Obama is the royal Davidic bloodline on his mother's side of his family, which takes him back to the house of David and out of Israel, which ties right into King Solomon, the Hermetic seal of Solomon, which is the Star of David, and the sort of control of the Goetia, which King Solomon also had. So it's very interesting. And the article that came out a few months ago, where Lynn Cheney allegedly was stumbling upon all this information, saying that Dick Cheney and Barack Obama are related. He's related like, I don't know, 6 other U.S. presidents, and he's, Brad Pitt, Justin Timberlake, he's related to all these people. So he's there because of his bloodline. There's no doubt about that. But I want to read you this thing I found. It says it's called Persuasive Analysis of Barack Obama's Speech. And the person that wrote this says, note, I have no political intention in posting this speech. It's simply a look at its use of persuasion, and it's quite awesome. This is an excerpt from a speech by Senator Barack Obama, New Hampshire, in primary Tuesday, January 8, 2008, in Nashua, New Hampshire. And basically what it is, it has his statements, so I'll read his statements, then I'll read you the analysis. It says, we've been asked to pause for a reality check. This is an indirect suggestion to pause, i.e. to stop thinking or rationalizing. We've been warned against offering the people of this nation false hope. We implies you and me, thus uniting us from our detached pause. We can look at the concept of false hope. But in the unlikely story that is America, unlikely allows us to feel unique and special as Americans, linking us to the myth of a people who thrive against all odds. There has never been anything false about hope. This is a different use of the words false and hope, and reframes false hope in a new way. For when we have faced down impossible odds, these impossible odds are unmentioned but assumed, and affirms that we are unique. When we've been told that we're not ready, or we shouldn't try, or that we can't, generations of Americans have responded with a simple creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can. A call to action, but even more, a call to rebellion against those who try to discourage us. It was a creed written in the founding documents that declared the destiny of a nation. Evocation of destiny, that we are the central figures around whom great things can occur. Yes, we can. It was whispered by slaves and abolitionists as they blazed a trail toward freedom through the darkest of nights, offering anecdotal evidence to support our rebellion against any oppressor. Yes, we can. Repetition. Hammer it into the minds and link it with powerful and positive emotions. It was sung by immigrants as they struck out from the distant shores and pioneers who pushed westward against an unforgiving wilderness. More strong images of perseverance against security and reason. Yes, we can. It was the call of workers who organized women, who reached for the ballot, a president who chose the moon as our new frontier, and a king who took us to the mountaintop and pointed the way to the promised land. Wow, this one is powerful. Without stating who the king is providing clues to the mountaintop and the promised land, and he allows us to connect the dots on our own. This makes us feel as if we have knowledge of an inner secret. Yes, we can to justice and equality. Yes, we can to opportunity and prosperity. Yes, we can to heal this nation. Yes, we can repair this world. Yes, we can. Powerful use of repetition. And so tomorrow, as we take this campaign south and west, in itself brings people back to earth, to the reality of the campaign, This would be bad if it were not for the preceding emotional high that we've been brought to. As we learned that the struggles of the textile workers in Spartanburg are not so different than the plight of the dishwasher in Las Vegas, and that the hopes of the little girl who goes to a crumbling school in Dillon are the same as the dreams of the boy who learns on the streets of L.A. This creates the feeling of a bonding between different people, a feeling that we are not so different from one another. We will remember that there is something happening in America, that we are not as divided as our politics suggests, that we are one people, we are one nation together, providing three ways of saying we are one people, and thus clubbing us with repetition again. We will begin the next great chapter in America's story with three words that will ring from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. Coast to coast, from sea to shining sea evokes patriotic memories of the song God Bless America, all without saying it explicitly. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. There's a little more persuasive than a simple phrase, repeated and instilled with emotion. It is the same effect that Hitler used with Sieg Heil and Martin Luther King with I Have a Dream. So there you go. So that's very interesting that someone broke that down, and you can see where persuasion and strong use of words have a strong effect on the subconscious mind of individuals. So I would say that the people who are writing Barack Obama's speeches are very trained in the use of phraseology that can manipulate the mind. These people are very schooled in linguistics. I would say that this is a linguistics expert who wrote this, and this is designed that way. So I personally think, back on the question that the caller had, whether Barack Obama is using mind control techniques or whatnot. Personally, I don't think he is. The guy doesn't have that much power. He is a puppet par excellence. Now, with that said, are there people behind him that are writing his speeches, that are writing what he says? Does he have a powerful mechanism of control behind him that's using him as sort of a vehicle to manipulate the minds of the masses? I would say a wholehearted, resounding yes, and I would say that's probably where your truth lies. I personally don't think the guys, whatever this story you said was on some website, whatever that website was that you named, I can't remember the name of it. I think I've heard of it somewhere before, but that's a little joke there, folks. But that he's using some sort of hand signals. I don't know. I've studied the guy. 7 Ways to Sunday. He doesn't control crap. He has no power. He's a puppet par excellence. But I mean, folks, he's got Brzezinski and people like that behind him. So that tells you they have the best people in the world, folks, behind him, writing his speeches, writing his linguistics, everything that can perfectly manipulate the minds of the masses in the way they see fit. So, I hope that helps, and I hope that that gives you a better idea there of what's going on. Yeah, I mean, you're giving Barack Obama too much power if you think he's doing this on his own recognizance, or he's doing this by his own volition. I mean, this is all about people that he has behind him. That's really what's going on here. So there you go, and hope that helps you figure out what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to buy the BS, man. I mean, it's easy to, if you don't. I mean, I just have had I sort of have a blockade to this stuff. I mean, I've been awake for so long, their mind control doesn't work on me in any sort of way. I can see through it immediately, but it does take years to sort of have that discernment and to be able to have that that psychic blockade to this stuff. But I mean, I've been really strengthening my mind for a great amount of years, so. I'm able to see this stuff as soon as it starts rolling out of it. But you can feel it. I mentioned that a month or so ago. I was like flipping through the channels late one night before I went to bed, and I was sort of stopped. There was like one of these religious channels where Pastor Hagee was on there, doing his normal. My God, Israel is the war we have to protect. Pastor Hagee says that Hitler was good for the Jews, and that he did good things. Let me tell you something right now, people. If you pay your allegiance to Israel, magical things will happen in your life. No, he literally said that. He literally said, if you pay all your allegiances to Israel, if you protect Israel, that magical things will start to happen in your life. Pastor Hagee literally said it, and I could feel when I was watching him on TV, I could feel him, the effect. I mean, I could when I was sitting there looking at the TV, going, I know what you're up to, dude. I mean, I was sitting here talking to the TV, going, I can see what you're up to, because you can feel it when you're someone like me, and you have a discernment of this. You have a psychic blockade to it. You could sit there and go, I know what you're doing. I mean, folks, it's powerful energy. And you can feel them having faith, and so it's easy to see how weak-minded people could buy into that. I mean, you can literally feel that there's a dark energy coming out of the TV when those guys are on there. I mean, you want to talk about using mind control techniques, they're using it. But I mean, anything that comes out of that TV can be used for mind control. I don't care if it's Barack Obama or anything else. You need to go watch Chris Everard's first Spirit World film, the first one that he released. Because he talks about how, I mean, when they created the cathode ray tube and they created TVs, the first thing it was used for was to channel entities and spirits out of the through the box. And so, I mean, this thing has been something where they've been able to manipulate the minds of people for a great many years. But I mean, like I said, when I saw that Hagee thing on TV, I could literally feel him having the effect it was having on me. But I was, I'm strong enough to go, oh, I feel this, man. It's pure evil. And it's pure mind manipulation. But people buy it. And I think that, well, I don't know. I probably shouldn't go there. But I would just say you need to watch out for this stuff on all fronts, okay? I'm just going to say it. That's all I'm going to say. Watch out for this stuff no matter where it is. Watch out for this stuff even in, the quote-unquote patriot movement. Be careful those type of people that are there. If you feel the... if you feel the pull to, follow some specific leader, even in our quote unquote movement, or some specific pull to, donate money to that person or whatever. I mean, you need to be aware that there are mind control techniques being executed everywhere. There are mind control. I mean, it's there. It's not just in the higher echelons of TV. There are people operating in all the realm and scopes, even in our own ranks, that are able to use this type of mind manipulation. So there you go. There it is. Just be aware of that as well. We're coming up on a break here in just a second. We'd love to hear from you today. 360-350-1486. Coming up at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, we will have Freeman joining us. And he's going to tell us what's been going on with him. Preview his new show, which is going to be airing here tomorrow night from 8 to 10 Central Standard Time, The Free Zone with Freeman. And I'm really excited about that. It's going to be great having him on with us as well. So, nonetheless, we'll get into some more news on the other side of the break here. But there's no doubt that whether you're talking about mainstream politics, whether you're talking about independent journalism or anything else, there is a specific campaign to own the hearts and the minds of the American people. That's why they have so many gatekeepers. That's why they have so many people out there to make sure that you fall into one of these traps no matter what. And that's one of the things, it took me a lot of years to realize is that, even because you call yourself quote unquote awake, or you call yourself, quote unquote, oh, I'm awake because I know 9/11 was an inside job. There's a whole other level of gatekeeping and a whole other box waiting for you once you wake up to the phony paradigm of the perceived consensus reality. So you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware that there's a whole other box waiting for you once you get out of that you have to break out of. It's there's multiple levels to this. More on the other side. Free for all Friday edition of the Global Reality right here on Oracle Broadcasting. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. All right, back here with you on the Global Reality on this Friday edition of the broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Josh Reeves. I thank you for being here with us today for the show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, lots of more news and information, and the like to get into if you'd like to be a part of the broadcast. We'd love to hear from you at 360-350-1486, and we'll get you up and on the air with us. And coming up here in about 30 minutes, we'll have Freeman with us from Freeman TV, Freeman Perspective, and he's launching his new broadcast right here on Oracle Broadcasting tomorrow night from 8 to 10 Central Standard Time. And you'll have Freeman, and then you'll have my show, the Saturday night edition of the Global Reality here with us, and that's going to be exciting, man. You're going to get a 4 hours of jam-packed information on Saturday nights, as well as the other great shows that preceded Avery Jane, her show, and the other shows we have here as well. So, by the day, it's getting more and more exciting and more and more great to be a part of as well. So let's get back into the news right now. Air Force creates new pilot programs for drones. From the Associated Press. Scrambling to meet commanders' insatiable appetites and demands for unmanned aircraft, the Air Force is launching 2 new training programs, including an experimental one that would churn out up to 1,100 desperately needed pilots to fly the drones over Iraq and Afghanistan. As many as 700 Air Force personnel have expressed some interest in the test program, which will create a new brand of pilots for the drones, which are flown by remote control from a base in Nevada. That new drone operator will learn the basics of flying a small manned plane, but will not go through the longer, more rigorous training that their fighter jet brethren receive. A senior Air Force officer told the Associated Press that by the end of September 2011, the goal is to have 50 unmanned combat air patrols operating 24 hours a day, largely over Iraq and Afghanistan. Currently, there are 30. To generate the pilots for the increased flights, the Air Force hopes to create separate pilot pipelines for its manned and unmanned aircraft, said Colonel Kurt Sheldon, assistant to the Director of Air Operations for Unmanned Aircraft Issues. I don't know what you could ever get to everybody. I don't know that you could ever get a drone to everybody who wants one, Sheldon said. I believe it is virtually insatiable. We are pedaling fast. We are working hard to meet that need. Besides the new test program, Sheldon said the Air Force is planning to shift about 100 manned aircraft pilots directly from training into jobs flying the drones. The unmanned aircraft are mostly Predators, hunter-killer planes that fly in the war zone. They're operated by pilots sitting at Creech Air Force Base in Nevada. Until now, unmanned aerial systems have had to complete at least one tour of flight duty before moving to the drone jobs. The urgent push for more drone pilots has been spurred by blunt demands from Defense Secretary Robert Gates. He has criticized the Air Force failure to move more quickly to meet war commanders' needs, and he set up a task force and able to find more innovative ways to get the aircraft to the battlefield more quickly. Predators are playing a crucial role on the battlefield in Iraq and Afghanistan, providing real-time surveillance video to troops on the ground, targeting and firing Hellfire anti-tank missiles at militants, and homing in on enemy efforts to plant roadside bombs. Earlier this year, for example, a Predator, probably one operated by the CIA, fired on a suspected terrorist safe house in Pakistan's North Waziristan region, killing Abu Lath al-Libi, a key al-Qaeda leader. Yeah, that was like the 6th time they killed that dude, too. To date, the Air Force has been using experienced fighter pilots to operate the drones, but as the demand has skyrocketed, the service has struggled to find enough pilots to fill in both the manned and unmanned jobs. The pipeline that produces manned operators is full, said Sheldon. We're pushing them through there as fast as we can. The 2 new programs are just beginning. The 2 pilots have just been selected to go through from training to the unmanned program. Once there, they will get an additional 4 to 6 weeks of schooling on how to operate the drone, how weapon systems work, and how to coordinate with troops on the ground. Eventually, that will expand, sending as many as 100 a year through the drone program for the next 3 years. And this is all about, this has less to do with having these drones over Iraq and Afghanistan, and has more to do with the fact that the reason they're having to get more and more people, there's a reason why they're not even putting, used to be you had to have pilots experience to run with these. Now, anyone who's ever played flight simulator on the computer basically is going to be eligible to fly these things. So why the rush? Why the push? Why do they need so many pilots for these things? I mean, that area is only so big. You can only have so many drones over that area of, Iraq and Afghanistan, folks. They're training these people because they know of what's coming in this country. And I've seen Predators and Global Hawks several times out on days looking at chemtrails. I actually saw one spraying a chemtrail one time, and got a picture of it. It wasn't very clear, but you could still see it. One small stream coming out of it. And I've seen them several times. So these are already deployed over our heads. I mean, there's drones flying around over the skies of the United States right now as we speak. And you're a damn fool if you think there isn't. I mean, there is. I mean, they're looking for meth cooks, they're looking for marijuana fields, whatever they can find. But that's really why they need more of these pilots in there, is to expand the domestic surveillance and tracking grid to have more of these deployed over the United States. Of course, they're not going to tell you that. Meanwhile, the test program for non-pilots is aimed at Air Force captains who have 4 to 6 years of experience but no flight training. Their schooling would take up to 9 months, and they would not have to meet all of the more stringent standards the jet pilots must. Unmanned pilots, for example, will not have to meet certain height or vision requirements, and also would not be eliminated due to physical condition that might prevent them from flying at high altitudes. In pressing the Air Force to be more aggressive getting drones to war, Gates hinted at such a plan, calling for bold thinking. All this may require rethinking long-standing service assumptions and priorities about which missions require certified pilots and which do not. Under the fledgling program, the drone pilots would go to Pueblo, Colorado for about 6 weeks of flight training. Sheldon said they would learn to fly a small Mitsubishi single-engine propeller plane, probably do a solo flight, and get a handle on basic aircraft controls. They would also train on flight simulators and then go through the unmanned aircraft training. Officials quickly reject temptations to compare the drone pilots to video gamers who have a far easier job at their computer screens than pilots sitting in cockpits. An F-16 fighter jet, said Sheldon, is easy enough to fly from one spot to another. The harder part, he said, is deploying the weapons. The same is true for drones. It's not particularly difficult to fly a drone from point A to point B, said Sheldon. It is challenging to fly it in a combat environment, coordinating with a guy on the ground who wants you to hit a target over here that's got friendly folks only 50 meters from it. Air Force captains will have until November 3rd to apply for the new program. They will be screened and tested, and the first 10 will be in classes January 5th. A second class of 10 will begin in April. The test program will also get reviewed by the Federal Aviation Administration in the coming months. Officials could not provide any cost estimates for the new training programs. So, there you go. So that's the main thing here. Is all this stuff. I mean, you read between the lines when they're talking about ramping up the need for more drone pilots, or like we talked about yesterday, the story where now they want this technology. DARPA's working on this technology to be able to see inside your house and see through a 3D image inside. I mean, this is all about being used against you and I, civilians. 9/11 was the perfect pretext for them to be able to have an excuse to create all this technology. And they'll be able to create all the technology they need for the years to come to lock down the world into a worldwide global fascist police state because of 9/11. I mean, that gave them enough reason for, the years to come, folks. More on the other side. Freeman coming up at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on the Global Reality. Stay with us. All right, back here with you, third hour of the Global Reality right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you so much for being here with us today for the show. Right here in this hour, folks, we've got a special treat for you today. I know everybody's been chomping at the bit. Everybody's been, over the past several weeks, just, asking about our guest today and when he was going to be coming on board on Oracle Broadcasting. So it's my great pleasure right now to welcome to the broadcast yet again. I want to say one more time, folks, as I was talking about earlier, you got to remember, it's an amazing thing to see how far we've come. The first time I was ever on radio, I didn't even have my own show yet, okay? I was just sitting in for someone then. I didn't have a show. I didn't have anything. First time I'd ever even been behind a microphone. The first person that was ever on board with me on the first show I ever did before I had my own show was this gentleman right here, and it is none other than Freeman. FreemanTV.com, the Freeman Perspective, longtime researcher and just seeker of truth and the light and information, and he's going to be bringing his perspective to the Oracle Broadcasting Network Saturday nights from 8 to 10 Central Standard Time, and it's going to be preceding my show, my Saturday night edition of the Global Reality. So he's going to be starting that tomorrow. It's going to be called the Free Zone, and well, that was weird. Just something dropped off there. I guess it was our call system. We'll have to get that back going up here in a minute, but and it's going to be called The Free Zone with Freeman, and that's going to be happening tomorrow night. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. Freeman, how you doing, man?
Hey, Josh, doing great.
All right, well, that's it's awesome, man. Let's get into it. Let's talk about this right straight out of the gates, man. Give everybody an idea of what's been going on in the land of Freeman lately.
Oh, well, it's never a dull moment in my life, I'll tell you what. Well, just recently was hanging out 1013 on the full moon with the Prince of Darkness, Rex Church, to get a little understanding of Satanism from a Satanist himself. You know, that's something that I'm about. Is I'm a people person. I like going around. I like meeting people. And so if I want to know about Satanism, I'm going to go hang out with a guy with horns, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, what better thing than to go to the horse? I mean, but that's go to the source. But that's the thing for you about. I mean, these guys are people. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay this to anything, but I mean, I think that there's a big sort of confusion between Lucifer, between Satan, between what the Lightbringer has talked about and Sirius and whatnot in Masonic lore, and between this idea of the guy in the red pajamas. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And that's what my show's all about. And that's what we're going to dig into. I'm going to start from the beginning. Because I always get new insights while I'm researching, and then old information becomes new information again. And so I want to really dig into it again, starting right now. I'm excited about being on FM radio and about being on Oracle. So I want to get back to the basics, start with the understandings of what we're looking at with this Luciferianism, Satanism, the Illuminati, Freemasonry, Theosophy. What does it all mean? And definitely my life continues to bring me out into unique perspectives, doing the winter solstice ritual with the Mayans last December at the pyramids of Tikal, or having large V-shaped crafts fly over my head. Things like this all happen to me, so I have a unique perspective to bring to people, and I'm hoping to bring them all out into that world. I want to bring everyone out into this miraculous, beautiful, insightful world that I've discovered that is here for all of us, but is totally controlled and mechanized by these reality masters that want to control our imagination.
Well,
Or the computer won't process the DVD, you name it, it's gone wrong.
Well, we're back here, so we're back. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, exactly. We got cut there again. I tell you what, I mean, this is every time we're trying to get that information, this happens. We're starting to get dropped and off. People just don't want the information out. But what I was talking about Freeman before we got dropped there was, I've known Freeman for a couple of years now, and first met him back in 2006 here in Dallas at the Terror Storm premiere. And one of the things that I've always known about Freeman is that, just like me and what I'm trying to do, I mean, I'm constantly in this state of finding my own enlightenment, my own path, and my own journey down this road, and what it means to me, and trying to relate that to the audience. And that was why it was like, what a better person to bring to this platform and use the big platform that we're now starting to have. I mean, we're on tons of micro stations and FM stations across the U.S. now. We've got other networks that are carrying the shows here as well. And that was my thing, was like, Freeman has also tried to do that. He's tried to reciprocate what he's experienced in his own path to people as well. And Freeman, I think that's going to be a great opportunity for you to be able to do that and really, reach a whole lot more people than you've been reaching up to this point.
Definitely. At this point, people that have been the only people finding me are the ones looking for me, and I'm ready to branch out and start to touch some of the hearts that haven't heard this knowledge. It's a very interesting trip indeed. I mean, it'll alter everything you see around you as you start to understand what the hidden code is, put up in all these signs and symbols, and even in military operations. News for me is the Freemasons capping the Great Pyramid with gold for Y2K, or Rael speaking before Congress about cloning humans. Milosevic accusing the U.S. of using HARP technologies to cause earthquakes and floods. I'm ready to go to the fringe.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about it is that it's all there. I mean,
it's news.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you talked about how you're going to get into theosophy as well, which I talk about quite a bit here with Alice Bailey and Madam Helena Blavatsky and that whole thing. It's one thing, Freeman, I think for a lot of years, yourself and people like me and other people who have been putting out this information, I think a lot of us have been sort of, pigeonholed into this realm where people believe that it's our opinion that these people who run, the New World Order or the elite, the globalists. I think people have thought for a great amount of years that it's our opinion these people are into this, but it only takes you to go research someone like Robert Mueller at the UN and to realize that Robert Mueller is known as one of the world's greatest channelers, following the traditions of John Dee and others. And he also, comes from the Alice Bailey School of Theosophy, the Lucis Trust, and all of this. So, I mean, they openly talk about this through the UN and others, that this is an occult plan for global domination. And so it's anymore, Freeman, we're not pigeonholed in that corner now where it's just our opinion. It's out there, and people now see it more than ever.
Absolutely. I mean, the leaders have a religion. And that's, I'm going to touch upon some belief systems that will probably challenge people. I mean, I even challenge patriotism, I challenge religion, and I say, let's ask the bigger questions. It's very confusing or interesting and, a wonder to me to look at these people and say, why? Why are they doing such things? What's the purpose of ritual? And I think even people within the orders will get an interesting perspective from me about their own reasons for being in there. The Freemasons, to pick one, you have to come of your own free will and accord. They cannot recruit you to be a Freemason. You must go in and ask of your own free will. And I find this a curious note and perhaps even an understanding into the nature of the universe in our soul powers, our free will, because these are the things that they're discussing. These are the things they're looking at.
Well, I think it's amazing, Freeman, that, and I'll be totally 100% honest here with you. I got nothing to hide. I mean, there was stuff a year ago that you were saying that I was sort of, still kind of buying the, the conditioning and the sort of new box. I mean, because you're awake doesn't mean that you're not still following into another box. And I think there's still a whole level, another level of groupthink, even as you were saying, quote unquote patriot movement. I mean, that's what we've tried to move away from here with Oracle Broadcasting, is it's sort of this old line thing where it's, one set of ideologies, and we've moved into trying to create a new paradigm. And that's not always accepting of people. And, stuff that maybe a year ago, you were the first person, Freeman, that was saying, look, don't buy into this Ron Paul thing. They're getting you roped in to get you to vote for Republican. You were the first guy saying that. You took so much crap for saying it. And it turns out now that I wholeheartedly believe you're right. I didn't at the time, but I do now. I mean, the proof is there.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to challenge everything. That's the thing. We can the reason I'm looking at all of this, and even the reason I'm on the radio, is because I've met so many people, and I find people to be so good, and that they are doing things for the right reasons, but their reasoning is being distorted by these reality manufacturings and predictive programming and all of the other media types of manipulation. And so why is it that all these good people keep being pulled into this bad action? And so it even had me checking into, our founding fathers and their connections with Freemasonry. And I discovered this, when you look at it, and very simply, you see that the first 13 presidents all were members of one fraternity. You better start questioning that and then wondering what this fraternity is about. Why are they in charge, and what do they think? And I think that Freemasons themselves need to question their own beliefs. And, my father was a worshipful master with the Freemasons. And he would say, well, I like the York Rite Lodge better because there's less gobbledygook. And here's the guy that runs the rituals, standing up there with his top hat and his apron and all the strange things they do behind those locked doors. And he just considers it something he had to go through, a rite, a ritual. But is there a reason for these rituals? I've actually recently got a letter from Istanbul saying, hey, we're fans of Freeman out here too. And you might be surprised to find that these initiations bring Master Mason psychic powers. Now, this person definitely believed what they were telling me, and they seem intelligent. And these are the type of things that I want to look into, because certainly there was a Fortune 500 company that does psychic remote viewing, or I'm sorry, a psychic remote viewing company that does psychic work for Fortune 500 companies like SciTech. And you start looking into what are we looking at? We've got CERN trying to bust holes into the other dimension. We've got HARP causing manipulation of the ionosphere. And we've got technology that's able to do, as I was saying, that into I got lost.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. No, it's perfectly fine. No, you're exactly right. I mean, that's my thing, Freeman, is that I've come into this in looking at is, going through and actually reading their works, going and delving into the works that up to, recently have really only been reserved for people who have gone through the rituals and gone through the rites and various degrees of Freemasonry. What I've started to find out, and I want to get your take on this, is that when as you start to read this information, Freeman, it's not something where, I can read it and then go, okay, come to the radio and tell the audience about the information. It's not something where you can read it and go to the audience. You can only really perceive it inside of yourself by taking it in. And I find that there's sort of these things where it seems to have an effect on the subconscious mind of the user towards whatever specific thing they want to have. And we dropped Freeman there, but we'll add him back here in just a second. But I mean, it does seem to be this thing where there's this idea that it's really intent on the user itself. It really does. And we got Freeman back with us. He just dropped there for a second. But, Freeman, I start to see this thing where it really does affect the subconscious mind of the user and opens up their subconscious for all sorts of control.
Yes. And it's on another level as well. Certain things such as synchronicity can only be experienced. So you could tell people about the occult mysteries over and over, but yet until you experience it, you can't really understand it. And synchronicity is something that I've always tried to promote to people because it's something I noticed in my life that brought me to the most amazing events and has drawn me forth and made me feel like I'm fulfilling my soul's purpose. And this is something you can't tell people about. You can say, yeah, I was at the exact place at the exact time and it just all fell together. But they're not going to think that that's possible for them until they themselves go out and experience synchronistic moments and they increase. So it's a type of thing that can only be experienced and never shared through word of mouth.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. And we're coming on a break here in just a second, but when we come back from the break here in a minute, there's something specific on this I want to get Freeman's take on because it's you guys know as my listening audience, this is something I'm going through right now. I mean, I'm really coming to grips with the fact that we're going to have to start realizing, folks, that the tools that they're using to enslave us are going to have to be learned by some of us to use back against them. If you guys would like to call in with any questions for Freeman here while we've got him on today, 360-350-1486. He's going to be starting the Free Zone tomorrow night, 8 to 10 Central Standard Time right here on Oracle Broadcasting. So we got Freeman with us. We'll take a break, come back. More with Freeman on the other side. This is the Global Reality right here on Oracle Broadcasting. Stay with us. All right, back here with you on Global Reality on this Friday edition of the show. My name's Josh Reeves. I'm your host. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the broadcast for us today. We have wide open phone lines for you right now at 360-350-1486, as well as international callers only, please, at 1-866-639-9535. Joining us today is Freeman, FreemanTV.com, the Freeman Perspective as well, there in Austin, Texas. So if you're listening to us on 100.1 FM, blasting out there on the outskirts of Austin and out into Lake Travis, then definitely check out Freeman there locally if you haven't checked him out. And, that's the thing that I've come to realize, Freeman, and I know that you've been onto this for longer than I've been willing to accept for myself. But, I think it just comes by virtue of the fact of, you do research and you go up and up and up. I mean, two things that I found, Freeman, is, number one, as you go up and up and up in the power scale and you try to find out who's in control, and people are always searching for the head of the Hydra, and, you find out that all the groups together that people predominantly place blame on, be it Jesuits or Zionists or all this, and you find out all these people are colluding together and that control's there. But there's this other level. Once you get to the highest echelons, you realize there's a brick wall there, and there are hidden masters. And you find out there are hidden masters that are controlling things, not necessarily in this physical realm. But I also believe that we can take this occult knowledge. Again, occult only means hidden. I have to stress that to people, but that's all it means. It only means secret or hidden. It doesn't mean, dark devil worship. Whoa. I mean, it just means hidden. It's not there in plain view. And I believe, Freeman, that it's really becoming up to people like yourself and myself and the very few people who are willing to go into that abyss to take this information that's been used against us and try to get our hands on this secret occult knowledge and use it right back against them.
Yeah, I agree. And the big difference is where you come from with this. I find that perhaps the definitions for black and white magic would be whether you're using it for selfish ends or whether you're using it for the good of all. And often that answer isn't always so easy, and you have to leave it to faith, your own heart, to know if it's good for all. But I find a lot of the magicians I speak with to be very egotistical, and I think that's one of the downfalls of magic. And you look into masonry and things of these nature, and you find that the people that are joining are trying to get up in business. I've actually sat at a lodge before and had them tell me I should join, and they would give me all these examples of when they were in the military and how they were diverted from dangerous areas to be rescued and saved. While the rest of the people that were not initiated were allowed to just go and die. And they were telling me story after story and then saying, don't you think it's a good idea to join? And it's this type of mentality that scares me when people are trying to use magic for their own selfish ends.
Well, that's been the predominant thing. I mean, over in England especially, you have you can't even get in a decent job, and be it in business, finance, the government, parliament, or anything else, unless you are a brother. I mean, that's just the bottom line here. And I think there's less of that here in America, but it's still very much there. But that's the thing is that we have to understand there are people who have figured out that if you tap into this energy and you tap into what is there, you can use it for your own personal gain. But that's the problem. Predominantly has been done by greedy, selfish, tyrannical individuals. And I think that it can be accessed by people who are doing things, for the light and for the goodness of humanity, and who really, really want to truly be the custodians of humanity. I mean, Freeman, all the people that you and I admire back through history, through writings and authors and lecturers and researchers, have all been sort of those people who really are predominantly focusing on that end. That's one of the things is that we have to realize everybody wants the solution all the time. But I think, Freeman, I think a lot of people aren't ready and willing to accept what that solution may actually be.
I agree with you there. It's the belief systems that really stand in the way. I saw a motto. I went to Disney. Let's consider just some of the things that are right out in the open. Walt Disney World is such a microcosm of everything that's going on. And when you consider that every ride in Disney World is sponsored by a military-industrial corporation, each one of these military-industrial corporations was founded by a Freemason. Walt Disney was a Freemason hired by Freemason J. Edgar Hoover to instill pattern programming into children. He had a great way of writing things into people's brains through his cartoons. And when you walk into Disney, I just went, in the first 10 minutes, they have your entire biometrics. You have to give your fingerprint a laser scan as you walk through the gate. And then you get in that first ride at Epcot, the experimental prototype civilization of tomorrow. And you go up through that big geodesic ball. It takes your picture and asks you where you're from. And all of a sudden, so now they've got your entire biometrics, where you live. They've got your picture, your fingerprint. And you're in a military-industrial complex, and it's made out to be all fun and games, this theme park, which really cracked me up because you get into one ride and it says how to capture your imagination. And that's exactly what these people have done, is hijack the global imagination. So when you come out of, say, RCA's Space Mountain, they've got you somewhat traumatized from the roller coaster, then you're brought down this people mover and it starts showing you what your future will be. And that's because they're writing our future, and that's the belief that they have, is there's no easier way to predict the future than to create it. And you start just looking into how they have manipulated our very imaginations and then use this against us. The whole ideas of Americanism, These were foundations of the Freemasons, and so we have to get deeper into what do they believe and start looking at who's the manipulator.
Oh, they had that, yeah. And Walt Disney had that club there
Club 33.
Club 33 for all his highbrow friends and fellow travelers to come in and participate in. I mean, I always thought that was interesting that they almost had their own little secret lodge within the park itself.
And House Resolution 33 that makes everything I'm telling you true, establishing Freemason Day on June 24th, St. John's Day. Were you aware of House Resolution 33?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's right there in front of us. But the thing is that our imagination or our knowledge of this has been co-opted. And so therefore we can't see the smoke and mirrors. We can't see behind the smoke and mirrors. And so for another idea like this new Zeitgeist Addendum, if you were looking into what we're looking at and you're looking at our shows, then you would immediately notice that the Venus Project could be more properly termed the Lucifer Project, and that it's just another experimental prototype civilization of tomorrow that's supposed to be built in Venus, Florida, and have a theme park attached to it. How many new civilizations do we need to try and get in touch with this, and why are they always connected to Lucifer?
More on the other side with Freeman, ladies and gentlemen. We got a phone call. Stay right there, caller. This is The Global Reality right here on Oracle. Stay with us. All right, folks, we are back here with you on The Global Reality. We're having technical issues. I mean, we're getting cut off and dropped. Every time we start delving into these topics, it's only these topics when we have technical issues. And it's one of those things where if it happens, it happens 5 times, you might not even say anything about it. But after it happens 30 times, every time you have a guest or getting into this exact topic, you have issues. You start to understand that these people don't want this information because they sure as hell don't want you knowing that the type of occult knowledge that they're using to enslave humanity has no bearing, folks, whether or not it's supposed to be used for good or evil. It does not designate that. It's simply dependent upon the hands of whoever it falls into. And unfortunately, it's fallen into the hands of, evildoers. So we do have Freeman here with us. We do have a phone call, so let's go to the phone lines right now. Global Reality, you're on the air with Freeman.
Hey, Freeman, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Hey, first of all, I just wanted to, really express some gratitude for what you've done. I've been promoting Zeitgeist for like the last, I don't know, whenever it came out, but the second I saw it, I've been pushing it all around, showing it to all my friends, and then I stumbled across your website. I watched all your videos. I bought your DVD, and then Addendum comes out, and then the first thing you start hearing about is the Venus Project, and because of you, this is basically what you just said. I was just like, wait a minute, that's the Morning Star. What is going on? That which then made me question the entire Zeitgeist series.
I was actually I was jealous of Zeitgeist when it came out, and I saw that they had like 300,000 hits in their first day. I was like, no way, why? Because I thought they were independent, but once I saw that, then I was like, oh, okay.
Totally. Hey, listen, man, I wanted to, I heard you discussing CERN, maybe, I think it was in August or something on a radio broadcast, which I believe was on Oracle. And I know you've talked about the god of Shiva, the god of destruction and so forth that's out in front there. And I've sent you an email. I know you're pretty busy, so I totally understand if you haven't got to it yet. But I wanted to let you know about another massive government facility called the National Ignition Facility. It's in California, and they're trying to create a star on Earth by 2010. The National Ignition Facility, you can Google that, you'll see it. My girlfriend is actually pretty intuitive in her dreams. She a few years back, she dreamed that a friend of hers died, and then a year later he did, and she dreamed of how he died. Well, she called me a few weeks ago and just said, I had the craziest dream, and she's never heard of this place, and she's like, the NIF is trying to build something, and I had this dream that all these UFOs came down, and on the side of the UFOs was the National Ignition Facility. And again, she'd never heard of it, so we looked it up, Yeah, and Josh has got the website. I actually put it up there, and I'm seeing it now on the chat room. But anyway, just take a look at that, man. I mean, you wouldn't believe the symbolism. They're making crystal pyramids to shoot lasers through, and they've got right. You'll notice first thing a sun low on the horizon, which is really Golden Dawn-esque. So anyway, man, that's really all I had for you. But again, both you and Josh really appreciate what you're doing, and it's the National Ignition Facility. It's like lasers.llnl.gov. But you could just do a search on National Ignition Facility in Google and it'll come right up.
All right. Yeah, these guys, they're crazy. When we were watching them turn on HARP, they didn't know what was going to happen. They were all giddy about it. Like, oh, well, let's just hit it and let's see what happens. This is the world's largest ionospheric heater. Here they're turning it on when we're talking about global warming. What's the understanding here? Where are they coming from? And they just flipped the switch. Let's see what it does. They didn't know. And next thing you know, all of the power in 4 southwestern states is out for 3 days. And a portion of the HARP facility melted. And then CERN, they're like, yeah, let's just kick her on. No worries there. And their logo, of course, is 666. And they kick it on, and all of a sudden, oh my God, these particles are moving fast. They were going faster than anyone had anticipated. And then they're like, well, we might be able to pull this off in a week, punching a hole into the other dimension. No problem there. And then, oh, well, our magnets are overheating. Better shut her down. And guess what? Earthquake in Dubai. What? These guys don't care. They just do these. I mean, crashing megaton nuclear explosives into Jupiter or Saturn. What are they trying to do? At points, I think they're trying to ignite another sun in the space. Try to ignite Jupiter into a new sun. This golden dawn, this new sun rising. It's astounding to watch as we make glow-in-the-dark pigs and then find that the glow-in-the-dark pigs are generating more glow-in-the-dark pigs. This is ludicrous to allow this type of flagrant science that doesn't know what they're doing, and it seems to serve us not at all, right? I mean, they have launched the grid, but I don't think any of us are going to be on it anytime soon. What are they up to is the question, and these are the things I want to dig into, and I definitely dig into that ignition facility.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here looking at it, and we'll talk about it in just a second. But that's the thing is that with CERN, you had all these people. I saw a lot of people. As soon as they didn't see anything physical happen on the day CERN fired up, everybody was like, "Oh, it's just all fear mongering. It was all this, that, and the other." But if you took the time to do some digging and go research, you could find that there were several European physicists who went on record as that weren't connected with the CERN facility. That was the problem. The people who were attempting to say, "Oh, it was all fear mongering. Look, this, that, and the other," they were getting their information from scientists that worked on the project. Come on, you don't think they're biased, but
let me just throw in that Berners-Lee, the creator of the World Wide Web and the founder of CERN, has established a new World Wide Web Foundation to shut down sites that are spouting wild conspiracy theories, and most especially those that are talking about CERN. So the World Wide Web Foundation has now been instituted in order to police the internet from dangerous information.
Yeah, because, there were several European scientists and physicists that came out and said, look, we wouldn't even see the effects of this for several years. They were saying, we don't even have the tools to be able to monitor something, and it happens incrementally. And they just said, oh, it just by coincidence happens to be, we wouldn't even know if one of these micro wormholes or black holes had opened by, somewhere around 2012, 2013. We wouldn't even know till then. So there were several scientists that said that. I found that interesting as well, Freeman.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and another thing was that it wasn't when they turned it on that you should have feared. It's when the collision occurs, and that was going to be, well, it was supposed to be a couple of weeks after the ignition, but then they found that the particle was moving much faster than they had thought, and that's just goes to show you they don't know, So they were going to push forward the schedule and do it within a week, but it didn't happen. So now CERN is being shut down and reset, and it's going to take 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said March was when they're shooting for now, when it will reopen. So yeah, last story I had from the BBC a couple weeks ago said March is when they're bringing it back up and fire it online. But I'm looking here at this article. We'll talk more about this on the other side of the break here in just a minute. I want to get Freeman's take on this. The National Ignition Facility and Photon Science Center. Literally in the middle of the page, it says creating a miniature star on Earth. That's the goal of the National Ignition Facility, the world's largest laser. So, and then it has a little video there you can watch on how to make a star in all this. Maybe I can get that. Maybe there's a video. I can get that loaded up and play that later. But nonetheless, we're going to take a break, come back. More Freeman on the other side. Your phone calls as well. 360-350-1486. Friday edition of the Global Reality right here on Oracle Broadcasting. Stay with us. On the Global Reality on this Friday edition of the show. Joining us today to talk is Freeman from the Freeman Perspective, freemantv.com, as well as his new radio show starting tomorrow night right here on Oracle Broadcasting from 8 to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday night. The Free Zone with your host, Freeman, and he's going to get into everything, folks. It's going to be a real opportunity to be able to, if you know people who are sort of new to this type of information, if you know people who need to be brought into that next level and brought along the way and haven't quite gotten there yet, this would be a great time to tell those people about Freeman's new show, because he's really going to have a chance to go through all of his, research up to this point. Well, not really research. It's really just his life is really what it is. But he'll be able to go through all those years of experience for you, over all of this stuff, and be able to give you a real background and bring along people a lot farther than they really are up to this point. So if you'd like to call in, he'll be taking calls as well tomorrow night. So that's going to be exciting. Before the break, we were talking about what the caller there had brought to our attention here, the National Ignition Facility and Photon Science. And literally they say, when completed in 2009, the NIF will focus the intense energy of 192 giant laser beams on a BB-sized target filled with hydrogen fuel, fusing or igniting the hydrogen atom's nuclei. This is the same fusion energy processes that makes the stars shine and provides the life-giving energy of the sun. NIF is a program of the U.S. Department of Energy's National Nuclear Security Administration. It also has links to the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Folks, this is total black ops. This is not just them playing with science like they are with CERN. This is black operation technology. You have Lawrence Livermore technology involved in Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and the U.S. Department of Energy's National Nuclear Security Administration. Freeman, these are the light bringers. They're doing it. It's here now.
Well, look at their logo, a sun rising on a pyramid cap. Yeah, they don't even hide it. Well, they're egotistical. They're proud of who they are. They love to put their signs on all of things. This is just the type of thing. Now, the issue is that a lot of people will go, well, so we're trying to come up with new energy. We're trying to look into new ways of generating life on planet Earth. They might be dangerous. The space program was dangerous, but it was worth it, or things of this nature. And when you start to get into this occult knowledge, then you start to look into who's making these things. And like our rocketry program with Jack Parsons, I mean, this guy called himself the Antichrist. He was heavily into Satanism, and he's the founding member of Jet Propulsion's laboratories. So when you start to look into who's doing this research, who has this high-tech gadgetry, you're always going to come back to these, well, what I'm terming Luciferians and the occult order. You've got to start to wonder, because these are the guys who were wanting to destroy matter, so created the nuclear bomb. They were the guys who wanted to create matter, and so now they're learning how to turn photons into matter. Now they're creating a portal, CERN, to open the other dimension to be able to send that proton into the other dimension. And you start to wonder, well, are these guys making some sort of Stargate? And I think that you have to go ahead and allow your imagination to open that wide and ask these questions. At least ask them, research it, and look into it and think why. Because here we have all these people who have been through occult initiations, and they're the ones that are busting their holes through the dimensions. They're the ones that are creating suns on Earth and black holes on Earth. And so it's more when you start to find out this knowledge that you can discern that more and see just who's behind this, and so that you're not sitting back going, well, I don't want to stand in the way of progress. Well, let's see who's progressing, you know.
I don't think there's any doubt that what they've been looking for over in the Middle East, whether the pillaging the ancient Sumerian relics and the Assyrian and Babylonian civilizations there, blowing the doors off the National Museum of Iraq. The first thing they did in the invasion, going and taking all of the Sumerian cylinder scripts and all of this stuff, all these reptilian humanoid figurines. Where did this stuff go, folks? And what they were definitely looking for something there. And you mentioned Parsons. I mean, my goodness, Charles Taze Russell, actually of the Watchtower Society, predicted that on October 2nd, 1914, that the Antichrist would reemerge on Earth. Well, just so happens that the guy that called himself the Antichrist, Jack Parsons, was subsequently born on October 2nd, 1914. Freeman, what about that?
I didn't even consider that.
I find that interesting. I mean, he was born the day Charles Taze Russell, the Merovingian, predicted the Antichrist would return, and then this guy just subsequently, meets up with L. Ron Hubbard, joins the OTO, learns from Crowley, and they both form, he goes on to form Scientology. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is. It's amazing how unknown all of this is. On Jet Propulsion's laboratory's site, you can go and check out Project Stardust. And they have a whole list of names of people. 1 million names were set off on this satellite to follow a comet. And there were 2 chips put on each of the projects. One was also on the Mars Phoenix project that sent, I think it was 3 million names to Mars on a chip. And there were 2 chips that went with each project. One went and stayed, and the other one was sent back from space. And why, but so you can go to the Jet Propulsion's laboratory and look up to see if your name is on Project Stardust. And I did, and I'm on 3 of the chips. My entire family is on the chip that went to the comet, and they have even my middle initial, my mother, my sister, but not my dad, who I thought was really interesting. And it's all in the capitals, all in capital letters. So it's my straw man that's gone up there. And sometimes I'm like, are they selling us off to, selling us debtors off to the aliens? Why would they send this chip up to a comet with my name, with my whole family, and 1 million other people's names? It's just... Yeah.
I can't quite rationalize that. I can't quite think about. I mean, the only thing that you can think, Freeman, is in the terms of the complete absurd. I mean, you know what I mean? There's no rational explanation as to why they would do that. There's something more dark and sinister there. I mean, that's not reaching, man. That's just the bottom line.
It's bizarre, and that's where we have to get. We have to understand why our space shuttles are titled the Columbia Endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis. We have to ask these questions because once you start to look into these secret societies, that's what they're into. They believe in Atlantis, Lemuria, ancient civilizations, root races, and the crossbreeding of extraterrestrials and even just god forms. You look into Hitler and you find that he's, deep into the occult, believes there's an inner Earth population, the higher masters. He kept Madame Blavatsky's book right by his heart all the time and believed that he was possessed. There is a deeper side to all of this. When you start to look at video clips like Enigma TV's Illuminati, or Illuminati 2, where you get to see Bill Clinton in a mind control state, or Barbara Bush. Oh my God, totally looking into a mind control state. We have to start asking more questions. It's not just simple, straightforward science. It's not simple, straightforward politics. We're looking at mind manipulation on the grandest scale and technological advancements that are being put forth by occult orders that are... Well, the first transmission on television was the Maltese Cross. It was the same esoteric orders that created television.
Yep, and that's exactly what it is, and those are documented with Chris Everard's film. We actually had Chris Everard on that made the Enigma TV channel. We're going to have him up again. We're going to come around the corner on a break here, folks. 4th hour around the corner. I want to keep Freeman on with us for one more segment. I want to get into channeling the occult, Aleister Crowley, and all of it on the other side. 4th hour of the Global Reality around the corner. Stay with us.
How long do we have?
All right, we're back here with you folks. We got dropped there coming off the commercial. We're attempting to get Freeman back on with us right now as well. So, just right on cue, right when we came back from the break there, we got cut. So we got Freeman back here with us. I tell you what, they did at the same spot yet again, and they just don't want the information out. But anyway, we're going to keep Freeman with us here for just one more segment, this segment at the top of the hour, and let him get back. I appreciate Freeman taking the time out of his day to come on and talk to us. I didn't realize that it had been longer than than the last time I'd had Freeman on. So we got on today and started talking. I realized there was so much stuff that has happened since last time we talked that I wanted to get his take on. And one of the things also, Freeman, that I think, when we're looking at whether it be CERN or whether or not we're looking at this other, where they're trying to create a star here on Earth at the National Ignition Facility of Photon Science. I mean, whether or not it'd be any of this stuff, and I want to get your take on channeling, whether it be King Solomon or Dr. John Dee or Robert Miller at the UN in the modern day. These people, there has been this underlying thing where the elites have realized that in order to get the information that they need, they have to get it from off-Earth sources. You mentioned Lemuria and Atlantis, and it talks about how this etheric barrier that surrounds the Earth. We know it as the Van Allen radiation belts had been put here to keep man in place. And one of the things that John Dee was told when he channeled to the Macrobes or to the Enochians, as it were, the Watchers, they told him that they had to strip mine the Earth to find this element called silicon to create technology to break off of the Earth. And you imagine him having to go tell that to Queen Elizabeth I in 17th century England. But, Freeman, there is definitely a connection between these people who have channeled off-Earth entities for information and the current things we're seeing with technology, such as CERN.
Absolutely. And when you start to recognize that, like Aleister Crowley channeling the Book of the Law, that's really what put him in the spotlight. It was the fact that he was able to make contact with this Atlantean known as Awas that put him at the top of the magical spectrum. And this very book, the Book of the Law, his handwritten works, are stored here at the UT campus next to the Goddess Columbia statue. So it's something that's definitely in the hearts and minds of the academia. It's not something that's out on the fringe.
Yeah, it certainly isn't. I was always wondering, Freeman, why they housed the book there in Austin.
Yeah, well,
question.
It really is, and there's a lot of high-tech stuff going on at UT. We have one of the largest computers ever created here, and they actually had built a particle accelerator here as well, but it seemed that the ants got inside of it and shut it down. So this spot's a hot spot as well. Austin really clued me into a lot of the hidden symbolism towards our goddess Columbia, and this whole city is definitely dedicated to her.
Oh, no doubt. You have her standing on top of the Capitol there, holding Sirius, holding a sword in an as above, so below fashion, and you've got all this. So yeah, the Ranger. You mentioned the supercomputer there, the Ranger, which has 38,000 individual dual quad-core processors and runs, I don't know how many, 500 something, gigateraflops per second. All this outrageous computing power with DARPA funding, no less, ladies and gentlemen. DARPA and Sun Microsystems both came in on that project. We've talked about it many times here on the show. I'd love to be able to go shoot video of that thing. But Freeman, they're not playing with this kind of, technological prowess just to, as some grand science experiment. There is this underlying thing where it seems like the elites want to get off this rock somehow. You've got the transhumanists who want to merge with machines to do that. What is there that's underlying as far as you see with this idea of them wanting to leave this planet? And, how does it tie into things like the Prometheus Project?
It definitely seems that way. You consider, just to jump right to the Prometheus Project, that both HW and W had pushed for a manned mission to Mars. They seem to be on an escape route. We watch as Bill Gates and others builds a large seed vault in the mountain of Norway, or all these deep underground military bases going on all around us. They're preparing for something, and it does seem that they need this a Stargate of some sort to get through, and it definitely seems they're on a timeline, and there's certain objects that they have to fulfill, and this includes ritual as well, and ritual sacrifice, which is when it starts to get really strange. Did I I still on?
Yeah, you're here. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just letting you talk, man. But one of the things, I just sent you a link there, Freeman. Check out that link. I don't know if you heard this story. It came out yesterday. Mars pioneers should stay there permanently, says Buzz Aldrin, the 33rd degree Freemason, who allegedly went to the moon. I say allegedly. But Buzz Aldrin yesterday, Freeman came out and said that the first people that go to Mars should stay there permanently, and they should set up permanent residence where the first people that even travel to Mars should just stay there. What do you think about that?
I think that's on their minds. Once again, I was at Disney World. When you go on the Mission to Mars project, it's a launch simulator. I kind of got nauseous and wasn't being able to concentrate too much. But when you launch on this ride at Disney World, they show you a base on the dark side of the moon, which is probably next to Jack Parsons' crater. And then when you land on Mars, it has an atmosphere with snow, and you can see the atmosphere on Mars. I think terraforming has been going on there for some time. And then the Prometheus Mars mission, the poster, the official Boeing poster, has Sumerian architecture on Mars. You know, they have this knowledge that has been withheld from us, the occult, yes? And it has to do with more than just doing psychic research or into tapping into the Watchers. It also has to do with the ancient past and how many civilizations have come and gone before this one, and what's potentially out there. I mean, when the Cassini satellite passed Iapetus, and it's a Death Star. I mean, if you look at Iapetus, you can see that it was a constructed moon, and it is identical to George Lucas's Death Star. There is more going on planet Earth than we are led to believe and even accept. And we're all caught up in the slideshow and the big circus of politics, the circus of Obama and McCain, that we're not paying attention to what they're actually up to. And yeah, I mean, Buzz Aldrin, he's a big UFO buff, and I actually saw the flag that Buzz Aldrin brought back from the moon with the Supreme Council of the Freemasons seal. That was the flag that they supposedly flew on the moon. They keep it at the Temple of the 33rd in Washington, D.C. And you got to understand that there most likely were some rites and rituals that went on the moon when they landed there.
Well, see, that brings up a whole can of worms that we don't have to get into. But I mean, I personally believe that what we were shown on TV was just the movie, as it were, because they didn't want to show astronauts dying on the moon. I think they used black technology. There's a lot of things that go there. They may have even used back engineered technology. I think what they used to get there versus what we were shown are two different things. I mean, I indeed think they wanted to keep it in secret for those exact purposes. I can't remember the gentleman's name. But there was one of the top guys that was head of the Apollo mission. When they got back, the first thing they did when they got back is they went to the Grand Temple. They had a ritual, and they initiated this guy that was head of the Apollo program. They made him Grand Master. They made him a 33rd degree. At that point, when they got back, when they declared the moon to be the sovereign property of the 33rd.
That's exactly the way it goes. Yeah, you're told here in America, and this is the story and the lie, the deceit that we've had to deal with since the beginning. America's streets were paved with gold. You're told that anyone can be the president. You can be an astronaut. I mean, they told us all of these lies in school without ever mentioning that you first must go swear upon the altar. As far as I know, only 2 shuttle programs had non-initiates aboard, and that was the Challenger and the Columbia. So sometimes you got to look at this as perhaps ritual sacrifice.
The Challenger and Columbia were the 2 that blew up, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, the only 2 to ever have civilians on board, but what I call non-initiates, because we need to look at it from the fact that these people are initiated into these esoteric arts, and there's more going on than just simple accidents, and we need to start to look at these things as ritual.
Oh, well, that's one of the things I've found recently, Freeman, that was sort of paradigm busting for me. It was starting to realize that, prior to when John Dee was channeling and when he was in communication with these off-world entities, which told him, in exchange for this information, you asked him what they wanted, and they told him that they wanted blood. They wanted blood sacrifice. They wanted ritualistic sacrifice so they could absorb souls' energies because they're essentially soul catchers. And that's what the thing is. If you look prior to when that happened with John Dee, after that event when he was channeling these, that was when you started to see the appearance of ritualistic killings that were done on certain degrees, on certain parallels, at certain times of the year. I mean, you had the Mayans and the Aztecs who did those type of things, but you really didn't see it as far as things that were like obvious, assassinations, killings, wars by the state.
Yeah, well, yeah, and there's a reason that the shock and awe was titled as such, and
Yes.
and that's how we have to start to look at things. I try to use this knowledge that I've been disseminating to project and find further occult ceremonies going on. Like after I recognized the shock and awe explanation, then I was able to recognize that they were using these codes openly, and we might be able to see the occult underground before it happens. So it's a matter of getting this knowledge to use it to understand what they're doing and what they might do.
Well, that's, and then there's going back to all of this. I mean, you have the modern day people are executing the same plans that were executed by the crown, 300 years ago, by the Canaanites. I mean, all these people have been running government in this form and enslaving the people, going all the way back to the time of Sumer. But it's interesting that when you go back and you start researching these ancient societies, right when we start to get to a galactic alignment, right when we start to get to a time right around what we're experiencing right now over the next several years, you start to see that historically there is this pattern where there is a global state that's attempting to enslave its people, and there is a small section of that population, and all of these historical references that are being pulled by these outer forces, and they're standing up and attempting to expose the people who are trying to enslave them. I mean, this is something that has happened, Freeman. I think we're living in those times yet again.
Yeah, we live in historic moments for sure. This is the Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. Like I say, large V-shaped craft are flying over my car. I know things are going to get strange. We need to be ready and informed to understand what's going on so that when we look at some of the happenings coming our way, we are not working out of panic and ignorance. So we need to start opening our doors of perception and starting to train our imaginations again, because we've been manipulated into closing our minds and coming up with the most simplest rational answer, and never mind looking any deeper. So it's time for us to start to dig deeper and be ready for these amazing events that are coming. And yes, it is right at this point, at the moment, as we are reaching these alignments, as they are trying to get everything. If you look into all of the projects that are slated really to the eugenics program, almost all of them are slated to be done by 2012.
Yeah, everything it seems to be a target date. You see that everywhere. I mean, 2012 is everywhere in the media now. It's everywhere. It's just they're sliding it in, right before your very eyes. You wouldn't even notice it if you didn't know it was there already. But the thing of it, you've got Roland Emmerich, the guy that made The Day After Tomorrow that Al Gore ripped off for his Convenient Truth film, and he also made Independence Day. Well, he's got his new movie coming out in the next year, his newest disaster flick starring John Cusack as the hero, called 2012.
Really? Yeah, it's Hollywood is right there with this whole program, and that's the whole gist of everything that we're saying, is that it is one specific fraternal secret society that is manipulating the output of every aspect of our lives, be it Hollywood, media, politics, economics. When you get to the top, you find that we're dealing with occult orders that have a completely different belief system and understanding of the universe than we do. They don't look at life at all like we do, and most importantly, they don't have our benefit in mind. They could care less.
Freeman, that's all the time we got, man. I appreciate you coming on with me, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, man. Looking forward to the show.
All right, Josh. It's been wonderful. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, take care, man. There he goes on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us today for the broadcast. I want to thank Freeman for coming on with us there, spending an hour and 15 minutes with us, staying on a little extra longer. I forgot. I thought I'd had Freeman on over the past several months, but I hadn't had him on in 4 or 5 months. It's been a while since we'd had Freeman up, so I didn't really realize that until we got him up. We were just going to promo the show. What we ended up talking a lot longer, but it was great, and I really appreciate Freeman coming on with us today. And then be sure and check him out tomorrow night, the premiere of The Free Zone with your host, Freeman, 8 to 10 Central Standard Time, right here exclusively on Oracle Broadcasting. It's going to be a big show, and he'll be taking your phone calls as well. We have wide open phone lines right now for you, 360-350-1486. That's the number. I want to talk about this right now just to continue the theme of what we were discussing. And I've read this once before in the past on my show, but it's been a while. I want to read this again. It just gets huge responses every time I read it just because of its complexity. Our ancient friend and brother, the great Pythagoras. Let no one ignorant of geometry enter here. In our Masonic adventure, we encounter the great historical figure or his work more than once. The first meeting occurs in the 3rd degree in the company of the hieroglyphical emblems. We are not told much, being only presented with one paragraph of information which, you might say, contains a few odd statements. We hear that Pythagoras invented the formula that is known as the 47th proposition of Euclid, better known to us as the Pythagorean theorem, which is in and of itself a tripantheon. Just as the tripantheon of gods is what has predominantly been worshipped and is still worshipped by the priest class in the elite, but was taken underground and hidden and only given to the elite after the 20th dynasty of Egypt, when, of course, Amun-Ra and monotheistic one god system was brought into play that all subsequent religions followed after the 20th dynasty of Egypt. That he traveled all over the known world, Africa, Asia, and Europe. It is more likely that he kept to the Mediterranean rim. Then he was initiated into several orders of priesthood. From this point, the paragraph begins to take on a strange twist. We are not told that he was raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason. Since Pythagoras lived in 6th century BC, we can really count ourselves as being the world's oldest fraternity. And by the way, this is actually from a Masonic literature. It's from a Masonic website. So when they say us and our world's oldest fraternity, they're talking about the brothers here. So this is not some tinfoil times thing I'm reading here. This is from their writings themselves. Finally, we are informed that when he first realized the relationship that the theorem defines, he exclaimed, "Eureka!" I guess that is just a piece of wisdom trivia that has been handed down for 25 centuries. And because of his great excitement, he sacrificed a hecatomb, which is a great public sacrifice of probably 100 oxen. This is even stranger knowing that Pythagoras was a vegetarian, as one of the earliest Western philosophers to teach the doctrine of the transmigration of souls, that souls are immortal and are continually reborn in new bodily forms. Now, that's interesting that he was, talking about that information, because that was the information that Ea had brought down in the original Brotherhood of the Serpent, and that was the true secret knowledge and part of the true hidden doctrine. And, of course, what does Pythagoras mean? Pythagoras literally translates to, "I am the serpent." And he would teach his initiates, folks. Pythagoras would teach his initiates from behind a curtain, and he wouldn't allow them to speak a word for like 3 or 4 years. If they did, they were out. And he taught them behind the curtain, and once they got to the highest levels of initiation, then he would reveal himself to them behind the curtain. Interesting that his name was I am the serpent. We may be inclined to take lightly this part of the lecture due to its quasi-historical nature and oddities, but garner some feeling of respect and acknowledgement of an ancient philosopher and mathematician. But upon closer examination of this paragraph, we'll find that such a casual attitude might be a mistake. I think we can be generous and give the author some credit and assume that there is something more within what he said. I think the paragraph was taken wholly from the Thomas Smith Web. One of the first things that comes to our attention is the fact that Pythagoras is one of the only, if not the only, outsider mentioned in all of the Blue Lodge degrees. This fact alone gives us pause to wonder why he has been spotlighted by our Masonic ancestors. So who was the man that is given such high esteem in our fraternity? Well, the secret knowledge that came from the original Brotherhood of the Serpent and the Brotherhood of the Snake that Pythagoras had is what spawned and formed Freemasonry. So Pythagoras was really the guy that really, he had degrees and rituals and initiation he sent his students through. So they really formed Freemasonry off of this hidden knowledge that came out of the Brotherhood of the Serpent, and it spawned from that. But he wasn't necessarily a brother as per way, because there were no degrees of initiation for him to go through, because that hadn't been invented yet. You see? So that explains that for you right there. Pythagoras was probably born about 570 BC. The heck was that? Did you guys hear that? You guys hearing that? There's a beep in my in the line. Is that weird? Say hello to the NSA, everybody. That's strange. You guys heard that, right? I mean, that was really weird. That beep twice? What the heck is that? Well, that's just interesting. Well, hello, NSA. Thank you for enjoying the broadcast here as we talk about Pythagoras. Pythagoras was probably born about 570 BC on the island of Sarnos. He was Ionian Greek. He immigrated to Croatia and southern Italy, where he founded a philosophical and religious society. At one point, it was persecuted. When many of the leaders were killed. Pythagoras resettled, but eventually it happened again, and the fraternity was scattered. It seemingly died out in the 4th century BC. Pythagoras himself died around 500 BC. We do know a little about Pythagoras and the Pythagoreans, but the earliest is from Plato. His school grew into a sort of brotherhood and fraternity with vows of secrecy. Therefore, little was written down. The emblem of the society was a pentagram. At each point of the star was a Greek letter which all spelled health. And we know that Apollo was a major influence in that society. In earlier Greek theology, the Logos was personified in the shining figures of Apollo, the god of light, music, geometry, and harmony, whose nature most closely affects the highest realizations of the Greek spirit. As the god of harmony, he is said to have invented all music. Apollo was the god of reason, yet he was also the god of prophecy. He is personification of the celestial harmony. He was the leader of the 9 muses, the goddess of inspiration and the arts. So we'll talk more about this on the other side. Our friend and brother, the great Pythagoras, right here on this Friday edition of the Global Reality on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. Thank you to the NSA for tuning in. Stay with us. Final half hour of this Friday edition of the Global Reality right here on Oracle Broadcasting. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. I thank you for being with us today for the broadcast. I thank Freeman for coming on with us today. And I had a great time talking to Freeman. I always have a great time talking to Freeman. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world, man. I tell you what, I'm just really glad to have Freeman on board with us here at Oracle Broadcasting. And, he's really going to help us get the word out on a larger scale. That's happening. It's so weird, the strange things that are happening today. We got cut off about 8 times while we had Freeman on. I've been dropped from the network 3 times. We had, in the last segment, we had a beep twice. Some sort of tone, which generally is a sign that they're monitoring you and recording you. So hello, I don't know what they're thinking they want to hear that I have to say. It's this is all mainstream news and it's all stuff that's out there on the internet, NSA. So this is this is just readily available information. I'm just the messenger here. And then, of course, my mixer, I have a software mixer I use for the show. The bass kept getting turned down all the way on its own. And I would sit there and talk, and I'd come back and talk, and it would sound all tinny sounding. Well, something's turning my bass all the way down to 0 on my microphone. So thank you to the NSA for that as well. It never ends. Let's get back into this. Our friend and ancient brother, the great Pythagoras. The Pythagorean theorem states that for any right triangle, the sum of the squares of its 2 legs equals the square of its hypotenuse. Or we could frame it as the sum of the square of the horizontal and the square of the perpendicular equals the square of the hypotenuse. We know this formulation was known before Pythagoras. There is evidence in ancient Egyptian work, ancient China, and the megalith builders. Regardless, it is attributed to Pythagoras. And 200 years later, Ulysses completed his Elements of Mathematics, where this particular proposition is found in Book 1. This theorem has been called the root of all geometry and the cornerstone of mathematics. The practical applications alone are worthy of the high esteem that Masonry affords it, and this is the interpretation of the lecture that is most considered when Masons speak of it, but the meaning of this hieroglyphical emblem does not stop there. The emblem we are usually presented is the 3, 4, 5 right triangle in this fashion. The vertical line of 3 units, the horizontal is of 4 units, and the hypotenuse is of 5 units. Not only is our attention called to this geometrical figure in the Master Mason degree, it is also prominent in the Scottish Rite in the 20th degree, Master of the Symbolic Lodge, and in the 25th degree, Knight of the Brazen Serpent. That's the 25th degree of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, folks, the Knight of the Brazen Serpent. Rex Hutchins, commenting upon the 20th degree in his book on the Scottish Rite, explains that 9 is a perfect number, being the triple of 3. There are 9 candles in 3 groups of 3, each on the east, west, and south of the altar. They form a graphic representation of the 47th problem. It makes no difference in the equation if the other 2 angles are 45 degrees and or each 30 degrees or 60 degrees. Because of the mystic meaning associated with numbers by the ancients, they consider the most beautiful triangle of all the right-angled triangle with sides of 3, 4, and 5 unit measures. In the 25th degree commentary, Hutchins describes the setting of this degree. The ceremony takes place in 4 apartments. They are all remarkable in their simplicity. The first is called the House of the Earth. The second apartment is called the House of the Planets. The third apartment is styled the House of the Sun and Moon. The principal chamber is called the House of the Light. 9 lights or candles are arranged on the altar in groups of 3, forming a representation of the Pythagorean theorem. The evidence that the particular triangle alluded to in the monitor is the 3, 4, and 5 right triangle and can be derived from the odd comments about Pythagoras' exclamation of Eureka in the Grecian language. Here is where we begin to apply the investigative tools of what is called gematria. As you know, the ancient letters were also numbers. The correlation of numbers with letters gave ample opportunity to nest hidden meanings within words, phrases, and names. For example, if we take the word Eureka in Greek and consider the letters as numbers instead of letters, add them up to get a total value, we get 534. The units of the special triangle. So when he exclaimed Eureka, as the legend goes, him exclaiming Eureka was also represented by the exact units in the Pythagorean theorem that he screamed Eureka when he discovered. Very interesting. Maybe we can even find hints of this geometry in earlier degrees. A very interesting technique of symbolism can be seen when 2 different types of symbolism are fused together or alluded to by one another, such as a legend that contains mathematical symbolism. For example, many of the blacksmiths of the gods were crippled or lame. In many cases, the sacred king was lame. The destiny of the sacred king was to lose his life as a sacrifice, an act which will regenerate the world. Usually, the lameness and sacrifice was deliberately caused. Virgil wrote a poem wherein the queen, who was resolved to die, offering herself as a victim in the fire, he writes, "Beside the altars, with 1 foot unshod, she calls as one about to die upon the gods and upon the doom, witnessing stars." There is an association between lameness and having 1 foot unshod and in the idea of sacrifice and redemption. There is a Byzantine painting known as Our Lady of Perpetual Help. This painting is of the Madonna holding her divine child. On each side of them, there is an angel who holds some of the images associated with the crucialon. The divine child is looking at one angel, and one of his shoes is falling off. We can even find this idea in slanting footrest of the Russian cross in the Eastern churches. We can develop this further in geometry. There are 3 types of triangles: equilateral, isosceles, and scalene. The equilateral triangle has 3 sides. The isosceles has 2 equal sides, and the scalene triangle has no equal sides. Scalene means uneven. It also means folks. Very strange that we got dropped again there, but we are back. I think there's music playing, but this always happens every time we try to get into some deep information. So there you go, and we're coming on a break in about a minute, so I'll just finish this segment up, and then we'll finish this up in the final segment around the corner. We can delve this further in geometry. There are three types of triangles: equilateral, isosceles, and scalene. The equilateral triangle has three sides. This one had special properties, and it grew to have mystical properties as well. And so, considering the symbolism of the Egyptian structure, one author states, and so beneath the ideal pyramid, with its four great equilaterals pointing heavenward as they converge above the center of the basal square, there would be sacrificed, hidden in the foundation, so to speak, a limping but necessary scalene, supplying all the important right angles for the base and the central elevation. As we consider geometry as symbolism as well as truth, we have to think of it as the ancients did. Pythagoras said, all is number. And in the Republic, Plato wrote, the knowledge at which geometry aims is the knowledge of the eternal. The eternal was to Plato the archetypal forms, or the timeless truth of existence. In other words, the foundation of the universe. That aspect of the universe which always was and ever will be. We'll finish this up on the other side, the mystical symbolism of the Pythagorean triangle. Final segment around the corner, folks. Friday edition of the Global Reality right here on Oracle Broadcasting. Stay with us. All right, final segment of this Friday edition of the Global Reality right here on Oracle Broadcasting. I'm finishing up this talking about, it's from a Masonic website, our friend and great brother, the great Pythagoras. I want to finish this up for you now, right here in the final segment. According to Plutarch, 46 to 120 CE, the Egyptians attributed the signs of the triangle in this fashion. The vertical line was of 3 units and attributed to Osiris. The horizontal line was of 4 units and attributed to Isis. And the hypotenuse was, of course, 5 units and attributed to Horus, the son of Osiris and Isis. It is noteworthy that Plutarch studied in the academy at Athens and was a great priest at Apollo's temple at Delphi for 20 years. In the myth of Osiris and Isis, Osiris is killed, which makes Horus the son of a widow and links him with Hiram. The units of the triangle side are significant. The 3 units of the Osiris vertical has been attributed to the 3 alchemical principles of salt, sulfur, and mercury. Direct correspondence with the Hindu concept of the gunas, the tamas, the rajas, and the sattva. All things are manifestation of these 3 principles according to the alchemical doctrine. The 4 units of the horizontal line of Isis relate to the so-called 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire. These are, of course, the 4 ancients. The ascending Horus line with its 5 units represent the 5 kingdoms: mineral, plant, animal, human, and the 5th kingdom. This is the path of return. The ascending line finally connects back up with the Osirian line, and the 5th kingdom symbolizes the adept as one who has consciously reunited with the source of all being. The angles that this special triangle express are significant as well. Here we must dive deeper into the realm of gematria. Remember that the assumption is tat words with the same numerical value are in some meaningful way connected. The set angles of the 3-4-5 triangle of 90 degrees, 37 degrees, and 53 degrees. If we can understand that this geometrical figure is not only of the greatest practical value, but is also of the greatest mystical significance, we must assume that every aspect of it sheds further light upon our quest. We can look upon this emblem as representing the ongoing incarnation of spirit and the ensuing ascent of consciousness by building higher and more complex forms in which to express itself. Looking at where the vertical meets the horizon, the junction of the Osiris and Isis, we have the 90-degree angle, the angle of a square. By Hebrew gematria, we know right away that 90 is the value of the Hebrew word for water. And of course, this reference is to water as symbolical as in the alchemical statement, our sun and our moon are conjoined in our water. The union of the father and mother produces the child Horus. The angle of the conjunction of Isis and Horus, the beginning of the ascension of the hypotenuse, is 37 degrees. We know from our Kabbalah that 37 is the number of Adam's second son, Abel. And Abel is considered a prototype of Christ. The number 37 is also associated with Yekdika, the inmost self, and the word for ark used in Greek translation of the Old Testament in reference to both Moses and Noah. The ark was the instrument used to ensure the continuing life. The angle of the conjunction of Horus and Osiris at the head of the corner is 53 degrees. This is the symbolical union of the Father with the Son. The Hebrew words whose value was 53 includes garden, as in the Garden of Eden, and stone. In the Greek, we find the word acacia, the sprig of immortality. A further look at the ebon stone reveals another point of light. If we look at the letters or letterate, Ab or father, or Ben or son can be joined to fill Alpha, Ben, Nun, or the Eben, which is stone. In other words, the father and son are conjoined in the stone. One further elaboration of these ideas, and we could continue this for some time, is the connection of horns with Hiram Abiff. The numerical value in Hebrew for Hiram Abiff is 273. The same value is found in the Hebrew words Ar Ganaz, meaning the hidden light. We also find the familiar phrase in Psalm 118:22, the stone which the builders refused. In Hebrew, it is pronounced Eben Masu Ha-Banim, and the value of this phrase, the stone which the builder refused, is 273, just like Hiram Abiff and the hidden light. Wow. So the numerical value of the stone the builder refuses is the same as Hiram Abiff or the hidden light. That's insane. This is actual Masonic text, huh? And if we listen to the symbols of this phrase, out of Psalms, we can find further light on the significance of the substitute for the lost word. If we just take the phrase refused by the builders, it equals the value of 220. This is another very important number for gematria, and is related to the Hebrew word for lamb. Latin, Christus, Deus, or Homo, Christ, God and man, and Novos Ordo Seclorum, a new world order. So, the Hebrew word for lamb equals 220. The phrase refused by the builders equals a value in gematria of 220. Well, guess what else reaches the value of 220 in gematria? Novos Ordo Seclorum, which is the New World Order. So imagine that. So the Hebrew word for the lamb, or the lamb, and they call us sheep, and the lamb means New World Order. The New World Order, or Novos Ordo Seclorum, has a value in gematria of 220. The same as refused by the builders, or the stones that the builders refused. You see? Very interesting. With all this behind us, I think we can conclude that the value of the Pythagorean triangle to Masonry is beyond compare. It leads us to the inner recesses by its very nature. It links us with the inner teachings of the ancient mystery schools, even taking us back to the construction of the pyramids with their triangular faces. Fourfold base and 5 corners and faces back to the megalithic builders. Also shedding light upon the cryptic words of the alchemists, and aligns us with our Hindu brethren, binds us with the 3 pillars of the Kabbalistic tree of life, and Mercury, severity, and mildness, and relating to our own pillars of wisdom, strength, and beauty in the 3 grand masters of the temple. And so there you go. I barely got that out there. My TeamSpeak just dropped off, so it looks like our broadcast connection may drop off here again and in just a second. Very strange, the technical issues we've had today. These weren't really even technical issues. This is just strange things that are happening. And, a lot of people are afraid of this information coming out, so there you go. And very interesting that, when you look into gematria, and again, this gentleman said that the inner teaching of the ancient mystery schools and the Pythagorean triangle is, in its value to Freemasonry, is beyond compare. Very interesting that the Hebrew word for lamb, and of course the stone that the builder refused, and Novus Ordo Seclorum, is the same as New World Order. It all equals up to the same amount in gematria. So that's a very key piece of evidence there, and I'll put this in the chat room for you guys to check out as well. Freeman, the Free Zone, tomorrow night, 8 to 10 Central Standard Time. Following that show will be my live Saturday night edition of The Global Reality, right here exclusively, folks, on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you. I want you guys to have a great weekend. Think about some information. Think about where we're going. And take your destiny back into your own hands. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow night for the show. Take care. You kind of have to take a step back. We've been going here about a couple of months now, about 2 months now. And one of the things I've noticed, and I really didn't notice it at first, because, when you're first launching a network and whatnot, it's kind of hectic and you're just trying to do. But one thing I've noticed now that we've sort of settled into the network and everything is sort of, going the way it's supposed to go now, I think I've noticed is more than on any other network, I've just been able to focus as much as possible on making this the best show that I can. I try to make it the best show I can for myself, and hopefully that becomes something that's enjoyable for other people as well. But one of the things I've noticed is that it's just become so much easier to try to constantly just focus on doing the best show. I mean, there's not any kind of extraneous. You're not worried about someone going to come along and go, hey, pack it up, Jack. You said something we didn't like, or that doesn't fit our agenda here. We're not on board with those ideologies. And I just appreciate everybody so much because, I mean, you're able to focus on the task at hand, and that's figuring out the best way possible to get out the information and hopefully inspire somebody else to want to get involved. That's the whole thing. But nonetheless, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. And I'm just sort of just ranting and talking here right now, but that's okay. We'll get into news and we'll get on to that. But I think it's important just to talk and have a conversation about this stuff. But no doubt, man. But that's the main thing is that everybody's just doing something to make it happen. And you guys have done a lot of stuff as far as getting out the word and whatnot. It's kind of a slow news day, but I still got a ton of news nonetheless. I've got, let's see how many stories I got here. I've probably got about 15 stories, and that's considered slow nowadays, isn't it? It's as crazy as the news is. But, I mean, it's just insane as far as all this stuff. Wow, 15 stories, man, and it's a slow news day. 15 stories used to be an absolute insane news day. I mean, literally, that's where we are now. I mean, I remember, dude, when 15 news stories was like, oh, my God, 15 news stories. How are we going to cram all this in? Now it's like, oh, man, what am I going to do? I got 15 news stories a day. As opposed to 60 I usually have every other day. I mean, my God. It's just getting insane more and more and more. But we're coming up on a break here in a couple of minutes, so I'm not going to get too far into anything. But, I've been talking about one of the constant things I've been talking about since I've been on air, in the year I've been on air, because that was what was going on then, and it continues to go on now at an exponential rate, is consolidation. And if the word of the year for 2007 was consolidation, the dual word for the year 2008 is mass consolidation. That's what we've seen. I've talked about that. This is what you're going to see. This is the slide towards incremental globalism that you're going to see. You're going to see, you've already seen the banks consolidate. You're going to see multinational corporations consolidate. Military-industrial complex corporations consolidate. The airline industry is going to consolidate. The automobile industry is going to consolidate. Well, now, here from Reuters today, more consolidation seen in concert ticketing. Ticketmaster Incorporated's purchase of a big stake in a powerful artist management company on Thursday signals more industry consolidation as it vies with Live Nation Incorporated for dominance in live entertainment. Buying control of Frontline Management Incorporated, which manages stars like Christina Aguilera.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, and everyone listening on the World Wide Web and beyond. Welcome to the Global Reality with Josh Reeves.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Friday, Free-for-All Friday, October the 24th, 2008 edition of the broadcast, coming to you live for the next 4 hours here, broadcasting from sunny and beautiful Dallas, Texas here today for you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today, lots to get into. We thank you so much for being here with us, all you guys, every single day as we decode the New World Order, past, present, and future. That's what we do here. Nothing is taboo. Nothing is out of the realm and scope of conversation and discussion. And we will get into all of it today. And we'd love to hear from you at 360-350-1486. And I mean that today. Let's get some phone calls in here, man. If you guys want to talk, whatever you want to talk about, I don't care what it is. Let's do it. Anything you think is a hot button issue, anything you want to get into, let's go. If you want to call in and rant, I don't care. Call in and rant. I don't care. Let's get some phone calls in here today. International calls, welcome as well at 1-866-639-9535. So the regular number is 360-350-1486. So we'll get you up and on the air with us today at and coming up in the third hour of the broadcast today, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. We are scheduled to have our great friend to the broadcast, Freeman, from the Freeman Perspective, FreemanTV.com. He's starting a brand new show here on Oracle Broadcasting tomorrow night from 8 to 10 Central Standard Time. It's going to be called The Free Zone. with your host, Freeman. So tomorrow night from 8 to 10 Central Standard Time, you'll have Freeman. So that's going to be great. You'll have Freeman from 8 to 10. Then of course you'll have me come on live with a Saturday night edition of the Global Reality from 10 to midnight. So, man, I'm looking forward to that. That is going to be a great Saturday live. The Saturday lineup to me is already great, but I love all the shows we have on Saturdays. But you throw Freeman into that mix, and you get me and Freeman in there back to back, and I think that's pretty unbeatable for a Saturday night lineup as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's another network out there that can say they have a lineup on Saturday nights as good as what we have here at Oracle. I mean, really, that's not bragging. That's just the truth. But I'm looking forward to that. So we'll have Freeman today with us, 1 Central. He's going to preview the show for you. He's going to tell you what's been going on in his life. Everybody's been asking over the past several weeks. I think everybody was sort of thinking that we were BSing you on Freeman coming on board Oracle because, he's a busy guy, man. I mean, I'm just lucky to have him. I don't care how long it takes. I'm just grateful that he wanted to come on, and he's excited about the show. He's excited about taking your phone calls. That's what's going to be great to me. I mean, my goodness. I mean, this would be exciting for me if this was on any network. But the fact that it's on our network, it makes it even more exciting. So, just the fact that you're going to have an opportunity to be able to call in and talk with Freeman. I mean, imagine that. Imagine what you're going to be able to. And the Eagles, and installing its head music veteran Irving Azoff as chief executive of the combined company positions Ticketmaster to compete with rival Live Nation, both in ticket sales and personal management of top music artists. So, everything is consolidation. Everything is consolidating down to under one umbrella. And that's how it will be. Everything you get, there will be no more free market. No one will have a chance to make any money. Everything you will get will come from the worldwide global superstate. More on the other side. Your phone call, 360-350-1486. Free for all Friday edition of the Global Reality. I'm Josh Reeves. Stay with us. Let's go to the phone lines right now. Global Reality, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello. I'd like to ask you if you've heard anything about Obama being able to hypnotize the crowds, and it's going around the net now. And if you're familiar with any of these techniques, and if you think it's possible for someone to do it, and if you think he's doing it.
Well, I haven't. I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard whether or not he is. I haven't heard that. It's certainly possible. I mean, here's the thing. I remember there was a quote, and I wish I could find the exact quote again. There was a quote a couple of months ago where he said, and I'm paraphrasing here. Barack Obama said, "I am what represents the returning to traditional American values." Now, I am, if you look that up, you look up that kind of statement, whenever someone says like, I am, and especially in that sort of where, he's pontificating and sort of, declaring himself, I am what represents the return to American traditional values. That's generally when they say that, that's a very Masonic term. And, I mean, if you go back and read like Transformation of America by Kathy O'Brien, who was an MK Ultra mind control slave, and you go back and read some of this stuff. I mean, she talks about like Bush Sr. being able to do all these, Masonic hand signals to hypnotize people and control people, and apparently, allegedly, they had Bill Clinton under this mind control and all this stuff. As far as that, I mean, I don't know if we could ever prove it, but I would say, I wouldn't say that it's not a possibility. I think that there's more to this guy than any of us know, but I think it's probably more of a case that he may be under some sort of manipulation more than he's really manipulating anybody else. I don't think the guy has that much power. He's a puppet par excellence to the point where he actually thinks he's running something. I mean, if you look at the way Barack Obama presents himself, I mean, the guy really acts like, he acts like he doesn't have any idea that there isn't mechanisms of control behind him. I think they've kept him in the dark so much. He has no idea there's a hidden hand. He really thinks he has power.
Yeah, have you checked out his body language? The chin way up in the air. He's just, it's really interesting, this whole phenomenon around Obama. And we know that people can speak and manipulate people, put them in trance and stuff. Well, if you go on Infowars, it's even showing up on there, and there's a link where you can get this report. And this person supposedly has experience in concussions and
able to, ask this guy and discuss and pick his brain about. I mean, that to me just is worth the price of admission for the show. I mean, that really is it. But so yeah, tomorrow night, 8 to 10 Central Standard Time, the Free Zone with your host Freeman will premiere, and again, we'll have Freeman with us today on the Global Reality at 1 Central. And I tell you what, and I'll mention this again later on the show once Freeman comes on, but it's amazing. It's an amazing thing for me because two of the first people I ever met, back when I was trying to get going at this and get established and figure out something to do. I'd been in my own little compartmentalized area of Dallas, Texas here, and I was sort of trying to get the word out, and just, nothing was really happening. And I'd had an interest in, I was trying to wanted to start making a film, wanted to start maybe doing a radio show. And the first two people that I ever met was Jack Blood and Freeman. And they drove up to Dallas. It was just hilarious. I remember the story. I remember the day it was Alex Jones was having his premiere for his film Terror Storm here in Dallas. And I had wanted to meet up with Freeman to discuss, having him in an esoteric documentary I was planning on making at that time, which I subsequently never made, but it sort of ended up turning into another film. But that's neither here nor there. But I remember Jack Blood putting a call out on his radio show for somebody to give him and Freeman a ride to Dallas. But I had that was the first time I met Jack Blood, and I sort of asked him, what I should do, and he sort of gave me some tips and just said, just do whatever, just get out there and do something. And if you're doing the right thing, you'll get noticed. And you know what? I mean, I've done that, and that is indeed happened for me. And same thing with Freeman. When I first met Freeman, I mean, I was starstruck with the guy. I was just a huge fan of Freeman. I was completely starstruck the first time I met him, but he was, he was totally, I figured he wanted to be hanging out with other people. He wanted to hang out with me all night. It was just amazing. And then, a lot of people don't know this, but the first show I ever did, first time I was ever on radio, this is before I even had a radio show, folks, okay? I had never been on radio before. I had never even attempted to do it. I was sitting in for a host who's no longer on the air. The very first show I ever did, the first time I ever turned the microphone on, Freeman was my guest. and here we are today on the 24th day here of October 2008, and here I am with my own show and Freeman coming on the network, and it's just it's an amazing thing, and just proves to you that as long as you keep hammering it out and as long as you keep trying and you're and you're doing things for the right reasons, man, you will get where you want to be, and I'm grateful every day for where I'm at, and I'm not jack diddly squat. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm small beans, but you know what? I don't care. I enjoy where I'm at and how far I've come and what I've accomplished, and I keep setting my goals high and pushing harder and harder and working harder and harder. I mean, that's why I work my butt off for this, man. And I'm just so, thankful for Oracle Broadcasting and thankful for the network and all the guys we have here, because what this network has enabled me to do, and I was talking to Lee Rogers about this last night in the chat room, it's just amazing now.
Transit and this sort of thing, and he's laid out something like a 64-page, I don't know what you call it, essay or whatever you would call it, on how he believes this is what's going on, and he points out some of the techniques and shows how Obama is using those techniques, and it's really interesting. I can say from my own personal experience that I have listened to Obama, and I really don't. I'm not buying into the whole Obama phenomenon, the two-party system, and basically this whole sham election. But sitting there listening to Obama, I know that some of the things he was saying wasn't inaccurate, and they were inaccurate and deceptive. And as I'm sitting there listening to him, I'm finding myself like having a feeling that goes against my mind, because I know that I'm being conned, but I'm sitting there listening, And I was telling my mother, we sat and we watched him together, and I told her, I said, that is really, really interesting. I know he's conning me.
Stay right there,
and
caller. Stay right there. I got to take a break, and I'll get to you on the other side. This is the Global Reality right here at Oracle Broadcasting, folks. Stay with us. All right, back here with you on the Global Reality on this Friday edition of the show, right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. We're talking to a caller, and we're talking about Obama and the use of possible use of mind control. And I think it's something that's definitely a possibility. I'm doing a few searches here, and I'm finding some various things where people are talking about this. Again, it's one of those things where, I don't really know. I mean, I guess it's a possibility. I haven't really looked into it that much. I could do some research on it and find out and let you know more. But I want to let the caller finish up with what he was saying there. You were talking about, before the break, you were talking about how, you're talking with your mother and whatnot, and just, it appears that, you can feel this effect on you. That's the same way the TV has the effect on me. I don't watch TV now, but whenever I do watch TV and I sit in front of it, I mean, I can literally feel it having the sort of narcotic effect on me that it has on people.
Yes, and you can even feel withdrawal when you turn it off. But this guy is so smooth that I sat there. Now I'm watching to see what lines he's going to run next. If he's going to, because I really don't believe in that much, because I've seen a lot of inconsistencies, and he lets out little pieces of his true intentions at a time. He doesn't come right out and lay out his whole agenda, and so that makes me mistrust him. Well, I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and he's talking, and I'm getting pulled in to this feeling of like saying, yeah, Obama's the man, and my mind, it's sort of like my subconscious mind is doing that to me, but my mind is steadily telling me, hey, don't trust this guy, don't do it, don't get sucked in. And then after it was all over, I started coming back to my senses, but it was almost like I had to deprogram myself. I had to go back over the concrete facts that I'd already found through researching him. I had to go back through that to pull myself out of this trance. And I told my mother,